Even though the Astri family is one of the most prestigious clans, a dark rumor is spreading that they will expel their own bloodline if someone lacks talent. Everything started a month ago when the young master, who had been unconscious from mana shock and muttering nonsense for a long time, suddenly opened his eyes and bolted out of the mansion. He didn't go to some terrifying place, but stood in the rain to reach the edge of the wood. After digging into the soil until both hands were bleeding, what lay in his fingertips, to everyone's surprise, was a weed. And from that day on, for an entire month without missing a single day, Leon did nothing but pull weeds. The Astri clan is a famed magic lineage with rigid rules. They will remove members who lack aptitude even if they are of the same bloodline. However, unfavorable rumors have recently been circulating within the clan. Maid Collet lowered her voice carefully while talking to the others. Did you hear about it? This time it seems the eldest young master still couldn't awaken. Helen hurriedly clamped a hand over her mouth to stifle a cry. Really? This is already the third time he's had a mana shock. At this rate, will the second young master become the family heir? One of them hastily signaled Helen to be careful. What if someone overheard? Collet quickly cut in. That's right, nothing can be concluded yet. They chatted away, unaware that Sylvia had been eavesdropping for some time, but failing the awakening ritual 3 times in a row is bad news. No wonder the eldest young master's madness is understandable. Sabin agreed with Helen. That's right, he's always been eccentric, and this time it's reportedly much worse. Suddenly Irvin's voice turned hoarse. What are you girls talking about? Collet and Helen cried out together. You really don't know. Collet's expression as she recounted the tale was terrified. It has to start from a month ago. After the third mana shock, the eldest young master lay bedridden for a long time. One day he suddenly woke up, but as soon as he opened his eyes, the eldest young master began muttering a string of incomprehensible words. Then he abruptly rushed out of the mansion, as if he'd found something in the back garden. It said he even knelt on the ground and dug with his bare hands, to the point both hands were raw and bleeding. After digging frantically, what the eldest young master held, recalling Leon's distorted look as if he'd found treasure though others saw trash, was a weed. Elvin and even Sylvia hadn't expected to hear such bizarre news. A weed. Elvin wiped the beads of sweat from his face with a handkerchief. Just a clump of weed, nothing to be so astonished about. The other 3 exclaimed in unison. The problem isn't that. One of them said in a low voice. Since that day, for a whole month, the eldest young master only pulled weeds. They didn't know that Leon was fulfilling a system mission to collect blue cassia herb. He pulled clump after clump until they formed a pile in front of him, and only then felt satisfied. Today's harvest is enough. Leon's hands were caked with mud, and he was bewildered seeing so many people lingering around him. Why are so many people watching me today? Being the eldest son of a great magic clan isn't enjoyable at all. His name is Leon. No, more precisely, he was Baek Yehyun, a Korean. Previously, Leon had led a team at a small, ordinary company, but unable to endure oppression from the firm and superiors. In anger, he handed in his resignation. After quitting, the only thing Leon had in abundance was time, so he returned to the game he had once farmed obsessively while job hunting. When he logged back into play, he was shocked to realize a harsh truth. Some bastard had deleted all his characters and drained his purchased currency. To be honest, he was pretty bummed. He had a pile of max-level characters, but since he'd finished all the endgame content, he wasn't too attached. So Leon created a new character and bought the crafting profession bundle. He picked 5 profession packs at once to use right away. Player luck being what it is, they were all great. Leon whistled cheerfully. Fine, he's free anyway. This time he'll try living peacefully as a crafter to heal his soul. Those were Baek Yehyun's last memories. After waking, he had become Leon Asteria in the world of In the World. Moreover, the current time is 50 years after the main story's ending. Now Leon was gathering sea scent herb while reminiscing about old wounds. Luckily, this body retained the previous owner's memories. Otherwise, the initial adjustment would have driven him mad. The system said sea scent herb tastes brackish like seawater. Collecting it completed the novice herbalist task and awarded 1,000 shillings. The exclusive shop will unlock once he has enough money. Leon was surprised. That's fast. There's even a private shop. He estimated quietly that maybe 100,000 shillings would unlock it. If he worked hard farming, he might escape this situation soon. Leon quickly yanked up the clump of blue cassia herb and the sea scent herb in front of him. Luckily, the system windows still appeared normally, and the skills he'd purchased in the game remained intact. Speaking of which, this body seemed to have failed the third awakening ritual. Right. The Asteria clan values ability above all else. Someone like Leon who failed the mana awakening ritual could be expelled from the clan at any moment, and that wouldn't be surprising. To go out and be independent, he first needed money. How to earn money and leave here safely. A crazy idea suddenly flashed through Leon's head. What if he bribed the family head? As soon as he thought that he wanted to raid the herb fields across the region, he'd need to level up quickly and find something really valuable to offer the master. What's with this blue glow? Leon lunged toward the bushes like lightning. It must be a rare drop. As Leon predicted, it was indeed solar crimson herb. He didn't hesitate to pull it up. Got it. The system immediately displayed details and uses for the new herb solar crimson herb. Leon was happier than if he'd found gold. He unlocked a new achievement, and the high felt so strong he couldn't hear the calls around him. Young Master. Leon's eyes flashed like car headlights, and it was a 3-star achievement, but the more he ignored it, the more insistent the newcomer became. Young Master. Eventually, Leon heard the housekeeper Sylvia call. Her gaze seemed ready to devour. Recently, the young master seems very obsessed with pulling weeds. He replied honestly, I have my reason. Leon suddenly sprang up and asked her about the solar crimson herb in his hand. Right, Mrs. Sylvia, do you see this? She examined it and answered, it appears to be a top-grade medicinal herb. However, Sylvia's answer wasn't what Leon wanted. Not that, it's glowing, don't you see? He began to grow flustered, you really don't see it. She looked at him as if he were mentally deficient, so the servant's rumor is. She spoke calmly, yes, I don't see anything at all. Leon was embarrassed by her stare. He stared at the solar crimson herb glittering with blue light in his hand and murmured, so only I can see it. Leon was just confirming whether the glow around the herb was visible only to him. Sylvia could no longer stand watching Leon in such a ruined, deranged state. Please come back, young master. You've been awake for quite a while, but haven't yet paid a visit to the clan head. He's sent people to look for you. Leon startled, he's looking for me. Asteria is a clan of absolute meritocracy. Even within the household, there's a survival of the fittest rule. The outstanding take everything. The clan head of Asteria is Patrick, the man Leon must curry favor with first before attempting to escape. Leon worried about his bleak future. He thought if he proved useless, Patrick would ignore him, so he hadn't expected to be summoned so soon. What to do? He hasn't prepared a bribe yet. It seemed he'd just come up with a clever plan to deal with Patrick. Leon messaged the woman before him. Mrs. Sylvia, could you tell him I'll come see him later? Also, there's something I'd like to ask you to do. Sylvia actually did pass Leon's message to Patrick. Oh. The Lord calmly toyed with a blazing red magic flame in his hand. That brat still hasn't fully recovered. Kondo quickly answered, yes, since he woke up the eldest young master has gone out to pull weeds every day. Patrick continued to ask anything else. Kondo bowed and honestly reported, he still can't sense mana, but his health is completely normal and his memory has no problem. Patrick was so angry the wrinkles on his face seemed about to fold into each other. Stand down. Kondo knew this was his chance to survive, so he quickly performed a salute and withdrew. Patrick's voice turned extremely icy. Sylvia, what on earth is that brat doing now? She replied calmly, still pulling weeds. All the servants in the mansion know about this. Obviously, that information shouldn't have reached Patrick's ear. Sylvia poured fuel on his anger. Recently, the eldest young master's weeding range has even expanded into the forest outside the mansion. Patrick's head began to steam. I never asked about that. It seems Sylvia wanted to rile Patrick to a boil. Oh right, the eldest young master also said he'd come to pay his respects later. Sure enough, Patrick lost his composure. What later? Later. He said he'll come later. Does he have some nerve? He sprang to his feet and shouted curses. No, tell him if he doesn't come here immediately I'll level that whole forest. Sylvia, who seemed used to the clan's reactions, stayed composed. Yes, I'll convey your words verbatim. After she left, Patrick could finally muster the courage to regulate his breathing. He used a magic orb to search for Leon's whereabouts. Oh my, that insolent brat. Patrick sniffled as he scolded his grandson Leon. He's awake. He should have rushed to tell his grandfather, Grandpa, I'm well again. But for weeks all he's done is bury his head in pulling weeds. When he returned to his room, Leon was shocked to discover, no way. There were many brewing flasks on the table that looked like equipment from a chemistry lab. There was even aluminum and other metals. He cried out happily, what is all this high-end equipment for? Just because his grandson wanted to make some medicines, his grandfather had laid out treasures like this. Truly the privileges of noble descendants. Leon quickly opened the system panel to check skill attributes. So then, if his guess was right, the leveling tasks for the pharmaceutical crafting profession would be the same repetitive grind as the gathering profession. Mastery would be divided into 3 ranks, the highest being Master, which only 1% of players reach. He tossed a herb branch into the earthen pot. The higher the mastery, the finer the technique, and the better the quality of the final product. He stirred the medicine while grinning foolishly like an idiot. Then I'll just make 100 healing potions and drink them all myself. see how that goes. Thinking that, Leon immediately put his hand over the steaming pot's mouth. He shouted loudly, "Extract." Moments later, a thick red liquid surged up inside the pot. That liquid, guided by Leon's magic, flowed into the test tubes on the table. The system announced successful crafting of a stamina recovery potion. Leon was extremely pleased with the stamina potion before him. Success. He didn't even bother to test it and downed a bottle of the brew. Having quality gear really is everything. At that moment, the system notified him he'd used a potion and become an apprentice alchemist. Leon grinned like an idiot, just as I thought, grandfather. The whole room and even his mind were now utterly blank. Wait for me. The more he drank, the more the progress bar on the system climbed. Leon drank the potions, heedless of his life. In the end, he was left almost exhausted. I can't drink anymore. The table was full of nearly empty potion bottles. His stamina was already at 100%, yet he forced himself to drink more recovery potions. What torture, just one last sip, hang on. Leon struggled to swallow the final drop, his whole body trembling uncontrollably. But the sweet reward of 1,000 shillings was finally in Leon's hands. At last, he'd unlocked a new formula. Leon muttered to himself, "Good, skim the details and now let's begin." He wildly threw the pile of herbs he'd gathered into the pot to cook. While collecting herbs, he kept wondering what would be the right gift to give him. Grandfather has enormous mana, so gifting a mana recovery potion wouldn't mean much. And for physical recovery, the clan always has master healers on duty, so that would be odd too. Then he thought of a potion that could dispel mental fatigue. Now Leon focused on brewing it. After all, the man deals with a mountain of work every day. They say grand mages can use mana to continuously maintain their bodies, so overwork doesn't faze. But mental exhaustion is a different matter. Leon was genuinely serious about creating this meaningful. The brew in the pot shimmered exactly as the recipe described, its aroma fresh and pleasant. He quickly poured it into a vial. I have a very good feeling about this. In the game, it was a common trinket, but in reality, it felt completely different. Leon once again placed his hand on the newly brewed vial and shouted, "Extract." Each sparkling drop kept changing under the influence of magic. It even contained countless fond memories of Leon when he was Baekhyun. The system announced activation of the pharmaceutical crafting specialty. Leon had successfully brewed a mental recovery potion. He didn't expect the result to exceed his hopes. A 2-star item. This requires at least level 8 mastery to make. Amazing. This would definitely be worthy to bribe the man with. I was utterly exhausted, yet just smelling it cleared my head completely. It works even without drinking. He had successfully created a potion beyond his current skill level. The system notified Leon that a mana ring had formed and mana coordination was activated. Now he could manipulate mana more precisely. Leon waited quietly for the new skill to stabilize, still clutching the new vial in his hand. Now Leon had successfully awakened his mana. He was ecstatic, so this is mana. Leon couldn't help but laugh, but his smile grew increasingly inhuman. He had no idea someone had been waiting outside all this time. Finally, I have. It turned out Kondo had been secretly watching him through the crack in the door. He showed no extra expression and finally turned to leave. Kondo quickly stepped out of the room's vicinity. For Leon, everything that day went extremely smoothly. This body originally couldn't sense mana at all, and now it has mana and he's earning money. Wonderful. It seems the plan to leave the clan will go very smooth. Harsh sunlight streamed through the window into the room. He hurriedly closed his eyes to savor the pleasure he'd just achieved. But a second later, his mouth twisted in an instant, though it felt like he'd forgotten something. After thinking for a long moment, Leon finally called out in a low voice, "Grandfather." Patrick knitted his brow slightly and asked, "Why hasn't Leon arrived yet?" He shook his head and sighed in exasperation. "It's just making a few potions. Why is it so troublesome?" Patrick spoke slowly and majestically. "Who am I? I am Patrick Asteria." He continued proudly, one of the pillars of the hero's ranks. Patrick's gaze deepened, his voice full of pride. The head of the Asteria clan could, if he wished, establish an independent nation at any time. Those are the titles attached to me. He helplessly thought of his only grandson. If the boy would just stay put, he'd let him live a life of luxury without worry. What does he intend to do with that frail body? Patrick snorted coldly and retorted, "Are we lacking money or lacking influence?" Sylvia smiled and replied softly, "It's understandable the clan head is worried." She hesitated for a moment and then continued, "But..." Sylvia curved her lips and softened her eyes. The young master was genuinely happy while making potions. He immediately dismissed that in a heavy voice. What's the use of being happy if he might face death? Patrick gripped the armrest, his face anguished. This is the third time he's had a mana shock. Surviving even once is hard. His voice grew heavy. I can't keep waiting for a miracle to let the boy survive again. Outside, Kondo walked in and said, Young master, the clan head has been waiting a long time. Leon smiled faintly, I knew it. Patrick fell silent, his eyes briefly showing pain. I only hope the boy can be a bit healthy. The man bowed respectfully and said, With your permission, master. Kondo looked up and reported slowly, The eldest young master has arrived. Leon entered the room, bowed and apologized. Please forgive me for arriving late. He looked at him intently and chided lightly. You've been out of bed for some time. Why did you only come to see me now? Hearing Patrick, Leon sighed softly, full of worry. After a moment of thought he spoke. After this mana shock, I've thought a lot. Leon calmly spoke the truth. Everyone in the clan knows I have no talent for magic. The woman stepped forward and worriedly called out to the young master. He gave a small smile and gently reassured her. It's okay, Lady Sylvia, I'm well aware of that. Leon lowered his eyes and calmly confessed. I cannot accept that I'm someone who cannot manipulate mana. It's not that I don't want to accept. He tightened his grip slightly, his voice deepening, because the moment I accepted that truth I felt I would no longer have a place in this clan. Leon raised his head, his gaze growing resolute. But now it's different. This is the result of my learning and effort. He broke into a confident smile. I can accept myself and be a young master worthy of the Asteria name. Leon shifted tone and spoke sincerely. Also, I imagine you've been very tired lately. Patrick paused briefly. What is it? He silently observed the person before him, thinking the boy was somehow different, not in expression or bearing, but something more fundamental. Patrick fell silent, his gaze fixed on the item placed before him. He was slightly moved, wondering inwardly if the boy had been making this for him all along. Patrick nodded faintly, secretly admiring him. Well done. He sighed softly to himself, though I've long since exceeded the limits of ordinary people. Patrick shook his head inwardly. Ordinary poisons no longer affect me, let alone a potion like this. Leon smiled sincerely and said, I thought of you while making it. He gently pushed the gift toward him. Try it when you have time. Patrick smiled faintly, joy welling up he could hardly hide. After a moment of thought he spoke. Have you finished speaking? Leon bowed his head and replied quietly, yes. Patrick nodded, his tone calm. I understand. You may step down. He bowed and then turned to leave the room. Sylvia smiled and murmured, He says that, but it seems the master is very pleased. Patrick cleared his throat and tried to appear nonchalant. Very well, it's nothing. He glanced at the vial before him, but this vial. Patrick squinted, trying to recall where he'd seen it before. She studied the vial intently and said, if it were just a mana recovery potion, it should show a mana fluctuation, or we could analyze it. He immediately shook his head. No need. Patrick looked at the vial in his hand and said gravely, I want to feel my grandson's intention myself. Sylvia smiled, exhaled softly, then looked toward him. She bowed her head respectfully and said, I understand, then I'll take my leave first. Patrick stroked the vial lightly and smiled. How long has it been since Leon last gave me a gift? He quietly examined the gift and murmured, looking closely, the boy's crafting skill is indeed quite good. Even with top-tier tools, without mastery of pharmacology and alchemy, one can't complete this overnight. The kid is truly. Patrick chuckled softly and muttered, even if this won't help me, it's a gift from my grandson. It would be a shame to waste it. Let me see how it tastes. He slowly opened the vial and took a sip of the potion. Patrick leaned back in his chair leisurely, his tired eyes half closed. He went quiet, sensing inwardly that his mind had become peaceful and truly relaxed. Memories unexpectedly surfaced in his mind, past recollections passing fragment by fragment like shards. Patrick suddenly remembered the time that had passed. He gradually sank into sleep, silently sensing things, and before long he fell into a deep, brief sleep, so short it barely counted as sleeping. In the dream, Patrick smiled slightly, and that dream was oddly peaceful and sweet. After a while, he slowly opened his eyes and looked ahead. Patrick was dazed, full of nostalgia, visions of the days he always longed for. He blinked in surprise and asked, Did I fall asleep? He quietly felt changes in his body, but felt no discomfort nor emptiness. He clenched his hand, astonished. Strangely, my mind feels so much lighter. The headaches that seemed endless have completely vanished. Patrick sat quietly at his desk, lost in thought, his gaze distant. He let out a rueful chuckle and muttered, stubborn just like the boy. Patrick propped his chin and grew resolute. Yes, we can't keep him caged just because his body is weak. We only need to find a way to prevent mana shocks. He stroked the vial, full of hope. Stay healthy and by your grandfather's side for a long time, Leon. In a corner of the yard, Colette widened her eyes in shock. What? Is young Master Leon Asteria about to die? Helen leaned in and whispered, Yes, I heard he even gave the clan head a farewell gift. She lowered her voice as if she knew everything, so he's been pulling weeds every day lately. Eska crossed his arms and sneered, What's the point? Probably picking out his own grave already. A loud noise suddenly rang from behind, making him scream and jump in surprise. She hurriedly made an excuse to leave. Right, someone asked me to help gather laundry. Eska hurriedly waved everyone away. Come on, get back to work everyone. Kondo looked at her and asked softly, Hannah, are you all right? She shook her head slightly and sighed. It's fine, I heard the young master's attendant quit again. He opened his eyes wide in disbelief. What again? Hannah fumed, clenching her fists. Yes, those people are shameful. They used to say serving the young master was the easiest post and were glad to get it. She grew angrier as she spoke. Now they abandon their posts over baseless rumors without notice. Once you accept work in the clan, you stick it out together. They have no loyalty at all. Hannah snorted indignantly. After all these years, they've received so many favors from the young master, and yet forget their debt over baseless gossip. Kondo turned pale and hurriedly warned Hannah, behind you. Then a calm voice unexpectedly sounded from behind. Hannah startled and stammered as she turned. House steward. Sylvia smiled politely and asked, could you tell me what that rumor said? She kept a gentle smile and continued slowly, I'm curious too. Sylvia bowed slightly and said, I'm sorry for arriving late. He waved his hand and replied calmly, it's fine, was there something urgent? She smiled and gently shook her head, nothing serious. Sylvia strolled over and said slowly, just tidying up some household matters. It's early, why did you call me? Patrick watched her quietly, his eyes showing a hint of worry. He pushed the vial forward and said in a low voice, with your witch's sight, could you examine this potion for me? Sylvia lowered her eyes and studied the vial on the table intently. She frowned slightly, skeptical. This is not something the young master could have made. Sylvia froze, her expression flickering. This is. She opened her eyes wide, unable to hide her astonishment. This the hero's elixir. Sylvia slowly recalled the past. The hero, the world's savior who ended the war with the demon race 50 years ago and then vanished. She continued with reverence. No labyrinth in the world could imprison him. Sylvia tightened her hands slightly, her voice lowering. A legendary figure even the gods feared, and a flicker of hope rose in her heart. Perhaps he is the only one who can find the hidden contract in this manor's maze and free me, the only one. Sylvia inhaled softly and affirmed, this is something only the hero could possess. Patrick remained calm and said slowly, let's not jump to conclusions. If this truly were the hero's elixir, its effect would be far greater than this. She fell silent, still troubled inwardly, moreover. Sylvia shook her head slightly, denying it to herself. Leon could not possibly be the hero. He looked at her and said slowly, regardless, I intend to ask the boy to make a better potion. I want you to feel the same relief I did. What? Sylvia said in surprise, let me. Patrick smiled and explained calmly, that's right. Haven't you been in a lethargic state for centuries? If this potion helps an A-Tring archmage like me, I think it could help you too, even if only a little. She gave a wry, helpless smile at that. Then Sylvia burst into laughter, her voice ringing through the room. She shook her head and said, do you know what the most useless thing in the world is? Worrying about a witch. Our kind are born with 1,000-year lifespans, bodies immune to disease, plus superior mana and skill. Sylvia's smile faded somewhat as she continued in a softer tone. So there's no need to trouble our dear grandson. She was silent for a moment, then smiled, however. Sylvia looked at Patrick with gentle eyes. I truly appreciate your kindness. He fell silent, inwardly calling Sylvia. After a while, Leon entered from outside and asked, you look like you have something on your mind. Patrick raised an eyebrow and replied at once, what sort of worry? Leon studied his expression and asked further, did you sleep poorly last night? Patrick shook his head, no. Leon propped his chin, pretending to ponder lack of exercise. Patrick answered curtly no. Leon tilted his head and guessed seriously, or is it age making it hard for you to eat fatty foods? Patrick glared, this kid's bold, yet Leon calmly continued, if it's none of those reasons. He glanced at the vial on the table. Could it be because of the potion I gave you? Patrick fell silent for a moment, inwardly confirming, yes. Patrick dropped the teasing tone and got serious. Very well, no time to waste. I'll get straight to the point. Can you produce a potion of higher quality than the one you gave me? Leon frowned slightly, calculating mentally. Given the current situation, creating a 2-star potion would be difficult enough. He frowned again, thinking silently that he couldn't find any additional 1-star herbs anywhere. Leon sighed softly and continued thinking. The last time was just luck, mostly thanks to his equipment, but he clenched his hand lightly, eyes filled with determination. I can't miss this opportunity while a patron is showing interest. I must seize it at all costs. Leon looked up and replied calmly, it will take some time, but I can do it. May I ask what you intend to use it for? Patrick answered immediately, in a matter-of-fact tone, I plan to gift it to the house steward. Leon widened his eyes in surprise, unable to hide his astonishment. Leon blinked, a thought instantly forming. I can tell they're clearly flirting. In his imagination, the elder said casually, I just happened to pick this up. Sylvia flushed and whispered, Master. A sudden voice cut through the thought, that's not it. The more he thought, the more he believed his guess. Of course he wants to give the one he loves something better than what he has. He must have been lonely for a long time since she passed. A protesting voice sounded again helplessly. I told you it's not like that. Leon took a deep breath and said seriously, Grandfather, please give me 2 weeks and I'll make a potion superior to the one I gave you before. Patrick's eyes widened in surprise. What, 2 weeks? Seeing his reaction, Leon paused for a moment, then changed his mind decisively. I'll finish it in 1 week, just wait. He quietly cheered himself on. This is my chance to secure affection points. I must succeed. The elder could only stare as Leon hurried out of the room and into the garden. He ruffled his hair in frustration. How am I supposed to craft a 3-star potion? Leon walked while his head buzzed with calculations. There isn't enough time to mindlessly grind levels to produce a good potion. Even if he bought high-grade herbs, he wouldn't know how to use them properly. He'd be better off buying a ready-made bottle with that money. He suddenly remembered something and snapped his fingers. Wait, check the shilling shop. There might be useful ingredients there. A notification popped up before Leon. Unlock potion preview, view item list and descriptions. He stared, frowning slightly. What, so I still can't buy them? Leon skimmed the wares, a twitch at his mouth. Hold on, why is everything here so expensive? Is that a gold-plated key? It's ruined, it should be cheap. He continued through the catalog, face frozen. Can't believe the other items are the same. Leon looked helplessly at the price list. Spices cost 10,000 shillings, and there's nothing here I can afford. He sighed softly and told himself if this won't work, the only option left is the usual way. Leon quietly weighed the remaining plan. Hand-harvesting high-grade herbs has limits. He quickly identified targets for collecting high-grade herbs. The thing he needed right now was. Leon nodded to himself. High-quality tools. At the nearby forge, the sound of hammer on iron rang nonstop. Saul glanced in and called loudly, Boss, come out. From inside the shop, Mudu replied irritably, No, I'm up to my neck here. What are you calling for? He urged impatiently, hurry up. Sean pointed at the front door, grinning. There's a fancy customer, go see. Mudu froze, then immediately changed his tone. A fancy customer. Mudu snorted while working. If it's a wealthy customer, chop the prices and sell it all to him. Why should he boss me around? Leon stepped up to the counter and politely asked, Are you the owner of this smith? He calmly explained his purpose. May I borrow your space to try forging a few things? Mudu assessed the customer silently. Clearly a wealthy young master. You can tell by his expensive clothes. Mudu looked at him blankly and blurted, What? Leon smiled confidently. Of course I won't refuse. He offered terms calmly. I'll pay you handsomely. How about that? After walking around the shop, Leon stopped at a display counter full of tools. He picked up each item to inspect and silently judge the quality. It's a bit poor and won't last long. Maybe the blacksmiths don't bother making these small tools, and since prices are inflated, I'd rather make one myself. Leon folded his arms and kept calculating. Even if I reveal I'm the eldest son of the Asteria clan to commission the smiths, they can't finish high-grade gear in a day, so then. He stepped up to the workshop and asked politely, May I borrow the space to try forging a few things myself? Sean looked up, surprised. Forge yourself. Leon calmly made the offer. I'll pay you generously. The coin pouch opened, gold coins glittering and spread before everyone's eyes. Mudu frowned and grumbled irritably. The bellows are already acting up, and now I have to serve a noble's toy. Sean went pale and grabbed his arm. Please, keep your mouth shut a bit. Sean turned to Leon and explained politely, Young master, you grew up in luxury so you might not know how things work, but that money is enough to buy Mudu a shovel. Please take your pouch back. He smiled awkwardly and warned, There are always scammers waiting to prey on fat targets. You must be careful. Leon blinked, half amused and half exasperated. I'm purposely overpaying. He nodded reluctantly and said, All right. Mudu folded his arms and eyed him suspiciously. Well, he raised an eyebrow in disbelief. A delicate noble wants to forge a shovel by hand. At those words, Leon couldn't help recalling the notes he'd read. The dwarf people. He slowly remembered in his head. A race that can touch fire without being burned. Leon recalled the rest of the introduction. Possessing extraordinary strength, but with meticulous precision. He looked at Mudu in surprise. I've heard there are only descendants left. I didn't expect to meet one here. Mudu stared at the customer and asked, What's your name? Leon replied calmly, Leon. Mudu froze for a moment and blurted out, the infamous mad name of the Asteria clan. Mudu turned and shouted back, Hey, prepare a spot for this eccentric guest. Sean held his head and sighed, hurriedly trying to restrain him. Oh gods, please clamp your mouth. He pointed to a corner of the workshop and said, You can use the forge over there. Put that kid to work and do whatever you want. Leon nodded faintly in thanks. He suddenly remembered to ask, By the way, your name is. Leon glanced around but then froze. He's gone. Sean smiled and stepped forward to explain. My brother's name is Milan Mudu. You can just call him Mudu, and I'm Sean. Please follow me first. He bowed politely as he led the way. I'll show you around the smith. Sean walked and introduced with a smile. Take your time looking around. He led him on a full tour of the workshop, eagerly pointing out each area. Sean pointed to the display area in front and added, after a product is finished, it'll be showcased outside. Leon observed everything quietly. The equipment was excellent and the process meticulous, but he frowned slightly, full of doubt. Why are the finished products so low quality? Leon suddenly turned to look at the forge. What was that just now? The system voice immediately rang out. Low-grade fire elemental. It's quieter than usual. He looked at the flame and asked, Sean, is the forge's fire normally this weak? Sean hesitated and replied, it's not exactly weak right now, but Sean sighed softly and explained, the furnace's power has definitely declined compared to before. But how did you know that? Leon smiled and answered calmly, the flame told me. He went on, then let me show you how to make a shovel. Mudu's voice suddenly sounded from behind. Wait, stop. He looked at his younger brother and ordered decisively, Sean, go do your work. I have something to discuss with him privately. Outside, Mudu spoke slowly, sir. He looked Leon squarely in the eye, voice serious. You've seen it, haven't you? He nodded slightly in confirmation. Yes. He studied him closely and asked in a low voice, can you fix it? Leon replied calmly, probably yes. Mudu hesitated for a moment, then clenched his fist. He took a deep breath and put forward a condition. If you truly can repair this, I'll personally teach you smithing. Mudu looked at him seriously. I'll give you priority on any fabrication order. Leon was moved by the offer. This forge is renowned across the territory and takes orders from other fiefs. He immediately recognized the value of priority access. Smiling confidently, Leon said, fine, leave it to me. Inside the forge, the weak flames flickered through the space as Leon slowly stepped up to the sputtering fire. Mudu watched in silence, heavy-hearted. I've worked hard to make this the largest forge in the territory, but the fire spirit's energy has been exhausted. He tightened his fist and thought helplessly, without the spirit, relying on artificial heat will ruin product quality. I'm reaching the limit of compensating with skill, and as a dwarf I don't even understand what the spirit is saying. At this rate, it's over. Leon looked at the flame and asked calmly, what if we just leave it as is? Mudu evaluated him silently. He looked thin and untrustworthy, but if he can really see the spirit. After listening for a moment, he spoke up. It says it's thirsty. Mudu's eyes widened in surprise. Thirsty. A fire spirit being thirsty. Mudu scratched his head, seriously considering, should we pour some water on it? Leon immediately objected. Pour water on the fire, are you mad? Mudu spread his hands with an aggrieved look. Hey, you said it was thirsty. What do you want us to do? Leon drew a breath and explained calmly. Calm down, Mudu. We have to give it something the fire spirit can actually drink. Mudu looked at him with hope. If you can solve this, I'll give you a masterpiece of mine, or anything you want. Leon raised an eyebrow to confirm, are you serious? He nodded without hesitation. Yes, I'm serious, and Leon's mouth curved with confident assurance. Leon smiled and said decisively, good, I'll start tonight. Night fell and the lights in his room were still dimly lit. Leon rubbed his forehead and sighed. Can't believe I'm here and still have to work overtime. The system voice suddenly rang out. Low-grade spirit cries out, spirit essence is depleting, soothe its thirst. Leon chuckled and replied, okay, I'll help you right away. Leon reviewed the info and analyzed silently. The low-grade fire spirit is severely dehydrated. Normally it wouldn't be completely exhausted, but this is the largest forge in the territory, so dying from overwork or dehydration is absurd for a spirit. He quickly identified a solution. Now that he knew the problem, what he needed was sea rosemary. An ingredient recipe appeared before Leon for sea rosemary oil. He read and muttered, normally it's just a salty herb, but after some processing it becomes an oil the fire spirit can absorb. The system immediately confirmed the product. Sea rosemary oil crafted. Leon looked at the result and nodded softly, done. He carefully brought the oil bottle close to the flame. Here, drink. The system voice sounded again. The thirst has been eased. The spirit's attributes and the sea rosemary oil harmonized. But the next notification quickly appeared. The thirst is not yet satisfied. Leon exhaled and rolled up his sleeves. All right, I'll make more. Immediately after, he set to work processing more ingredients. Leon nimbly completed each step without delay. The system announced again, the thirst has been quenched, essence restored. Another line appeared. The spirit is grateful, empathic experience increased. He smiled faintly at the flame. Thank you. Mudu stood silent for a long moment, then blurted out, this eccentric kid, you actually did it. He looked at him with admiration. You truly are an amazing person. Mudu suddenly paled when he saw Leon stagger. Are you all right? Leon waved his hand and forced a smile. I'm fine. Leon kept a calm face and explained, I just stayed up all night, it's nothing. He immediately shook his head and cried out in alarm, no. Mudu hurriedly caught him, flustered, you can't die on me like this, boy. A little while later in the kitchen, filled with the scent of cooking, adorable Thorn and Leaf leaned close to the table with curiosity and asked, Big brother, what's your name? Before he could answer, the two kids started babbling over each other. I'm Thorn made of gold, and I'm Leaf made of jade. The duo's cuteness made everyone smile. They were so close to each other. Seeing them so close, he suddenly felt a pang and thought of his own sibling. Do I even have brothers or sisters? What would they look like? If I recall, they'd be prickly, and above all, I don't think they'd like me much. After mulling it over, he brushed it aside to comfort himself. Well, as long as we never meet, it's probably fine. Besides, I'm not interested in being head of the family anyway. A loud shout from behind made Leon start and turn around. Oh heavens, you kids. Rhea rushed over and scolded the mischievous pair. Go play over there. The young master is eating, so he's the young master. He chuckled softly and reintroduced himself. My name is Leon. Thorn got excited. She preferred nicknames, but calling him young master sounded cooler, so I'll call you young master, that's fine. Chased away, the two children ran off teasing playfully. Goodness, don't bother the young master's meal anymore. Young master, young master. Leon sat down for breakfast with Mudu's wife. She apologized, young master, we're still so young. It's okay, watching lively kids is actually pleasant. By the way, this soup is delicious. I'm glad it suits your taste. She couldn't hide her worry, remembering earlier. Young master, when my husband brought you back this morning, I was so startled. Rhea expressed deep gratitude for his help. I've heard how much you've suffered for him, and you even took on the work to fix things. I don't know how to repay you. You gave me shelter and food. Let's call it even. Just then, a child's voice rang out. Daddy's home. The children rushed out to joyfully greet their father. Dad, did the young master heal the spirit? Your face is all smudged again, you little rascal. Leon smiled gently and suggested they get ready to depart. If you've finished eating, let's go. Mudu beamed with confident joy. I've prepared everything already. He was astonished at what appeared before his eye. Leon was taken aback by the luxurious gold-trimmed wooden board placed beside the sharp farming tools just finished. This is, I told you, whatever you request I'll always prioritize. If we're both busy, just write what you need here and I'll make it and deliver it to you. Mudu happily stepped ahead to lead the young master. After all, it's not that important. Come in quickly. He was astonished to see blocks of pure iron before him. Mudu explained his thorough preparation. This is iron. Judging by your build, if we started from smelting ore you'd probably pass out, so I prepared the material in advance. The iron was forged by a descendant of the dwarf clan. He recognized the smith's seriousness about teaching. You teach more seriously than I expected. What, don't tell me you're going to half-ass. Eager to begin his first smithing lesson, Leon said, of course not. I want to learn right away. What should I do first? The smith decided to demonstrate first. Right, that's the spirit. Let me show you how it's done first. The first lesson is mastering metal temperature. First and foremost in forging is the iron's temperature. You must monitor the temperature precisely. Not too cool, not too hot. Making it glow red isn't enough, and if you overheat it melts into liquid iron. The fire spirit appears. When the iron glows just right, the forging moment has come, right at that instant. The hammer strikes rang out. Strike force shapes the weapon, impact is critical, thin the blade section, strike thicker elsewhere to make it sturdy. Finally comes filing and sharpening to finish the piece. Once the basic form is set, file it down further and use a grindstone to hone the edge. He was completing the final steps on the hoe. Finally attach the handle. The hoe was finished, emitting a radiant glow. The hoe is done, how about that? Easy, right? Mudu confidently affirmed his craftsmanship. That's right. For ordinary people this isn't easy, but with legendary Mudu here to help you, don't worry. May I use up this supply of iron? He was stunned by the young master's action. Of course, use it really. Understood. Leon tossed the iron straight into the fire, startling him. What do you mean understood? He calmly faced the roaring flame. I'll give it a try and see what happens. The sound of forging rang out powerfully and decisively. He wiped sweat tiredly after the first hammer blows. Expected it, but it's much harder than I thought. System notifications kept appearing challengingly. Hoe unfinished state. Cannot restore. Oh no, this must be melted again in the fire before continuing. Hoe unfinished. Completion rate 15%. Unclear if this hoe will be completed. Leon was undeterred and persisted in training. It's tough, but I can't stop now. Repeating this over and over, he'll get it eventually. The grueling training began with countless consecutive failures. He began to grasp the secret of keeping the temperature exact. That's it. Leon confidently drove powerful hammer blows into the glowing iron. just like before. A dazzling light burst from each of his decisive hammer strikes. The system suddenly announced he'd awakened an entirely new talent, this kid. The smith was astonished at the red-hot bar in his hands. That just now, try using that to make something. His eyes showed amazement as he sensed an unusual aura, a different feeling than before. Leon was sweating profusely, intensely focused on the hot bar. Hammer strikes thundered as the basic forging phase officially began. He cheered with joy when he finished the first hoe. It's done. The handcrafted hoe increases the chance of obtaining a high-tier item. Mudu didn't spare praise for his talent. You're pretty good. This odd kid has a gift. Do you think it looks fine? It's more than fine. This is true talent. Be proud. You've finished one, so take a short break. Really? So what's next? Leon eagerly asked to learn how to craft new tools. Teach me how to make a sickle. The sudden request left the smith utterly astonished. He laughed heartily at his determination and stubbornness. When it comes to stubbornness, you're a certified maniac. Mudu cheerfully agreed to teach every secret. Good, I'll teach you everything, I'll teach you everything. He silently promised his kin as night began to fall. Grandfather, wait a little. I'll definitely finish your love story. The hoe struck the ground forcefully, marking the start of a new journey. Close-up details appeared for the rare herb just harvested, finger ginseng, a plant similar in effect to wild ginseng but shaped like a finger, requiring extremely meticulous collection methods. When decocted and used correctly, it increases stamina. He was astonished at the superior performance of the newly forged hoe. Just upgrading to a better hoe made such a difference. But he quickly realized this was only the beginning. There was more. A glittering, mystical forest unfolded with countless hidden herbs waiting. Equipping a hoe and sickle let him collect many more herbs. Leon smiled confidently at the thought of advancing his skills. If his digging proficiency increases a bit more, he could easily reach 3-star herbalist. He eagerly got to work training more. Then I'll try digging some more to get the hang of it. New item info kept appearing during harvesting. Banana sweet potato leaf, banana sweet potato stem. Spotting the tuber revealed in the deep pit, he cheered with delight. Just as I thought, this shape is a sweet potato, which means beneath this layer of soil. As he slammed the hoe down, a burst of flame suddenly erupted brilliantly, startling him. A fragrant roasted sweet potato appeared along with an unexpected blessing activation notification. The blessing of the low-level fire spirit hidden in the hoe had been triggered. He received a perfectly roasted sweet potato thanks to the blessing of the fire spirit. Roasted sweet potato. Ah. Leon carefully read the description and inferred that the fire spirit's blessing gives a chance to obtain a perfectly roasted item. I guess this works on anything edible. Amazing. I only swung the hoe once and already got a perfectly roasted sweet potato. The golden, fragrant roasted sweet potato in his hand made his mouth water. Without another second's thought, Leon decided to eat it immediately. Eat first, he said and bit off a huge chunk. The first bite made him float on a wave of bliss, too hot, but that made it even better. Sweet potatoes are best when they're still hot enough to scald your mouth. It was perfectly sweet with a rich, nutty creaminess, like eating a sweet potato with milk. To Leon, the roasted sweet potato was a culinary delight, so delicious. The aroma even attracted a little bird that flew over nearby. Seeing its bright, pleading eyes, he understood. Hey, you want some too? Saying that, he broke off a small piece and offered it. Here you go. It pecked curiously and took a bite, its eyes shifting from curiosity to the same sparkling look Leon had a moment ago. Seeing its expression, he laughed. Tasty, right? Go ahead and eat. It fluttered excitedly at the delicious food, which made Leon a bit nostalgic. I once had a friend like you when I played this game. I wonder what happened to them. After finishing the meal, he stood up gently, dawn breaking behind him. Now that he had some energy, should he start gathering ingredients for making medicines? First, I should dig up a few more sweet potatoes. Meanwhile, a doleful sigh echoed through the manor. It was none other than Kondo, leaning one hand on a pillar with an anxious face. 3 days have passed since young Master Leon left. Why would he go to the smithy? This is driving me mad. Should I go find him right now? Behind him, Sylvia showed no worry. It seemed the eldest young master still had not returned. Kondo turned in surprise. Had she been standing there the whole time? Steward. Yes, I'm nearly frantic. There are even strange rumors spreading through the territory. They're saying the eldest young master is about to die or will be expelled from the clan. The rambling was cut off by an excited voice. Oh, it's Leon with a new companion on his shoulder. Are you all waiting out here? He shouted when he saw the person he'd been waiting for these past days. Young master. Kondo rushed over to him. Young master, heavens, look at your condition. Leon soothed him softly. I'm fine. It's nothing serious. But Sylvia wasn't pleased with the casual head scratch. She frowned. How could the Asteria family's eldest son look like this? Kondo curiously pointed at the bird. By the way, what is that bird? Only then did Leon notice something perched on his shoulder. What the? When did you start following me? Suddenly Sylvia stepped forward and interrupted. Young master, you don't have to do this anymore. He immediately understood the meaning behind her words. Grandfather must have told you, right? He sighed helplessly. He really has no tact at all. Her reaction left Sylvia momentarily stunned. He continued, anyway, the 1-week extension I asked for hasn't expired yet, so please wait a little longer. It's a bit late because I was gathering materials, but I've collected enough now. She was amazed. You gathered the material. Leon ran inside and replied while turning back. So wait a bit longer. I'll craft it as fast as I can. Kondo, I'm fine, so go back to your work. He showed a pitiful, stammering face. But young master, at least have someone apply medicine to those scratches. Kondo called after him as he ran. Young master, while Sylvia remained troubled alone. She thought to herself, as a witch, most existing medicines have no effect on me. I don't know what Patrick told the boy, but among all Asteria family members I've seen, Leon was the frailest and the child who caused me the most sorrow. Yet seeing him work at the forge through the night to gather earth, it's foolish, but a faint, fragile hope began to stir. Memories of him as a child are the reason she truly doubted that Leon could achieve the impossible. Could the boy really actually manufacture that kind of medicine? A few days later, Sylvia went to see Patrick in person. He allowed her in. She had arrived. Judging by her expression, I guess the medicine vial has taken effect. Present-day Sylvia no longer wore a sorrowful expression. She spoke proudly. My mind and emotions, those things that had grown dim and withered for decades, suddenly became as clear as crystal. I knew the boy had worked hard, but I didn't expect him to be able to concoct a medicine that affects me in such a short time. This should be impossible unless you did something, my lord. He denied it at once. Sylvia, I did nothing at all. I've been busy enough preparing for Leon's coming-of-age ceremony, which was cancelled when he suffered a mana shock. Honestly, there's a mountain of paperwork behind it. Sylvia seriously proposed her theory. If Leon himself made a medicine of this caliber, then it leads to another problem. This is truly just like a hero's elixir. According to legend, a hero is an entity that appears alongside monsters to save the world before darkness consumes it. But that person's private life is never called happy. They must fight countless battles to rescue a chaotic world and constantly taste despair and emptiness with every choice they make. Once peace is restored to the world, that person suddenly vanishes, like a disposable tool meant only to save the world. Patrick agreed. Yes, they disappear without a trace, as if simply evaporating. The remaining comrades and descendants of that person try to search for the hero, but we still haven't found any trace. If by some miraculous chance Leon really is a hero, what should we do? Losing comrades who fought at my side was already more than enough. I don't want to endure that pain again with my own grandson. Sylvia paused for a moment. Then she smiled and said, then it's time to hide our beloved child thoroughly. This old Sylvia now requests retirement. Patrick was astonished. What? You can't do that. That's absurd. Would you give up your own freedom just to hide Leon? I don't want to live bound to this house forever. If it were me, I'd find the hidden contract and let you rest. Contrary to Patrick's vehement objection, she replied calmly. Patrick, worrying about a witch is the most useless thing in the world. I know the contract's terms by heart, which Sylvia cannot leave this territory, which Sylvia can live like a human within this territory. In that moment, someone appeared at the window and spoke. Because our beloved child helped me live more like a human. It was another version of Sylvia. She smiled with delight. So I will gladly stay by his side to protect the boy. Time passed until the White Castle was painted in the colors of sunset. In the cluttered study with books piled everywhere, a deep male voice said, a new maid has arrived. And she is specifically Leon's maid. That young man is Rixel, the second young master of the Asteria clan. Rixel is an unparalleled genius and the next inheritor of the great mage family. The youngest four-circle maid, also a descendant most similar to Patriarch Patrick in every respect. His youth is not a weakness, but a formidable weapon. For someone like him, having a new attendant is highly suspicious. He raised an eyebrow. In front of him was a resume for Sylvia, but the portrait was of that black-haired girl. He was puzzled. She'd worked here so long yet resigned over a single vial of medicine. Her retirement made no sense, and as soon as Sylvia left, a new attendant appeared. Something strange was going on. Time rewound to last night. It turned out Rixel met Sylvia yesterday. He sat with his legs crossed, skeptical of her resignation. She looked unusually radiant. Did she really decide to retire? Sylvia didn't tell the whole truth but replied accordingly. Yes, I wanted to come say farewell to you one last time before I left. Young Master Leon's medicine has helped me a great deal. Of course he couldn't accept that. I still don't believe it. Sylvia suggested, if you want to verify what I say is true, why not visit the eldest young master? When you were a child, you always trailed after. That remark eased some tension. He blushed. That was when I was little. Sylvia repeated it once more. Young master, you may find it hard to believe, but everything I say is true. If you get curious later, follow the eldest young master for a while. It costs nothing. Those words circled in Rixel's mind from then until now. He took them to heart. He couldn't argue with her, and she seemed lighter than usual. Was all this really thanks to my foolish older brother? None of this makes any sense at all, yet. Saying that, he grabbed his long coat and decided to go find Leon. I have to see for myself. They say he often goes to Mimir Forest, right? Night had fallen over the domain, Mimir Forest. Nightfall settled in. Rixel ventured alone deep into the woods, muttering complaints. This forest is as gloomy as ever, and there's not even a decent path. What could possibly be worth his trudging out here? If he needed herbs for alchemy, he could have John fetch them. Suddenly a noise caught his attention. What was that? Rixel immediately followed the sound, approaching the source. It turned out the sound came from a figure sitting there. It was Leon holding a roasted banana sweet potato. But the sight morphed into something grotesque in his eyes. What the hell are you doing? At that moment, Leon opened his mouth wide to take a big bite. Rixel hastily cast a spell. You can't eat that. Don't eat that dirty stuff. Pause for about 2 seconds. Everything seemed to freeze. Leon collapsed to the ground. He screamed in despair when his food was snatched away at his lips. He fell to his knees and wailed over the ascended roasted banana sweet potato mass. Leon spun around angrily to scold. Who did this? Why would you do such a thing? But when he looked clearly, he was stunned to see his younger brother standing there. Leon was surprised. Rixel, why are you here? Rixel was panicking over his earlier action. Oh no, I was just going to peek and sneak away. Seeing his confused face, Leon realized, wait, you came to see me, could it be? To scope me out? No, not at all. Rixel cleared his throat a few times to explain. First, sorry for abruptly using magic, but you shouldn't eat something caked in dirt like that. It's not clean at all. Leon quickly corrected him. But this is a sweet potato. Sweet potatoes are supposed to have some dirt on them. He sounded a bit curious. Sweet potato. You mean that starchy tuber? This definition left him unsure how to clarify it. Sure, but no one has ever defined it that way before, so I don't even know how to answer. But this made Leon realize, are you serious? You've never eaten a sweet potato before. The question stunned him. His blank expression was the answer. Leon felt sorry, never eaten one. You've really missed out on a delightful part of life. Rixel found this baffling, really that extreme. Of course, as the older brother, Leon was determined to show his younger brother earthly delicacies. Just sit over there for now. I'll dig a few more nearby. Rixel hesitated but didn't refuse. All right. After walking a bit, he suddenly turned back and asked, come to think of it, you can use fire magic, right? Could you start a small fire for us? Rixel didn't fully understand but complied. It's not difficult. And while Leon dug for sweet potatoes, Rixel had the fire ready. Leon returned with an armful of tubers. Ready, Rixel answered softly, yes. He then shoved the pile straight into the fire. If so, now we just wait for them to cook. Will they burn if left like this? No worries, the skin is thick, so the inside will cook perfectly. The air fell silent. The two sat facing each other without speaking. Rixel stared fixedly at the fire-roasting sweet potatoes, seeming to have forgotten why he came. Leon was secretly watching his pensive face. Then he finally spoke. Sometimes doing something different from usual can clear your head. Moving forward is good, but resting is just as important. Rixel replied, I think I understand. Just then Leon noticed the potatoes were done. The aroma was strong. Looks good. Let's eat. Rixel held a potato like it was some strange creature. Still, he hesitantly took a bite. The sweet flavor immediately delighted him. Rixel exclaimed, it's delicious. Leon was relieved to see his brother enjoying it. See, it's called banana sweet potato. The domain was relatively warm and had no winter, but sometimes the weather turned chilly. This forest was especially dark and windy, making the air quite cold. The weather made him crave something. When it's this cold, what do I long for? Exact bunjiapang and roasted sweet potatoes, plus fish cake soup and hotteok, that perfect mix of natural sweetness and warmth. Without these things, it's hard to withstand the cold. While Leon was lost in thought, Rixel kept enjoying his food. Leon inwardly noted how enthusiastically the boy ate. Kids that age usually have huge appetites. Back in school, I used to eat constantly. Breakfast, snacks, lunch, more snacks, instant noodle. After a while, he suddenly widened his eyes in shock. Because the ground was littered with sweet potato peels, Rixel realized he'd eaten that much. Leon said cheerfully, I'm glad you like it. Rixel, a bit embarrassed, stammered, well, you see. Yes, it's rare to have a moment to bond. Leon said, eat as much as you want. You're working hard for this family in my stead. You know the sick suffer, but those who care for them suffer a lot too. Rixel denied it. I don't see it as a burden. And I've never blamed you either. But to be honest, I'm a little jealous of you, because you have things I don't. It's not that I'm unhappy with my current position. I'll keep doing my best. He laughed and said, all right, I understand. The boy is still a child, after all. Leon took on the role of an older brother, offering advice that was also comfort. You're at an age where it's okay to be a little selfish. If there are times you get bored of studying, it's fine to occasionally do whatever you want. As he spoke, he stepped closer to Rixel and gently patted his shoulder. You've done very well. Those words made him feel warm. The pressure of succession seemed to ease considerably. Only then did he understand Sylvia's implication, just as Sylvia had said, I'm glad I came to see you, brother. After their full meal, Leon quickly returned to his room. He eagerly opened the system panel to check his balance. I've saved up 71,500 shillings. I'm close to using the system shop to craft that medicine for Sylvia. I've worked myself to death, but I've leveled up quite a bit because of it. Then he was briefly embarrassed. It's a pity she rejected his feelings, but ah well, that's their business. I can't do anything about it. If Patrick heard this, he'd probably be shocked and correct me. That's not true, kiddo. Leon's mood was extremely buoyant. I've also grown fairly close to Rixel, and now I don't have to worry about being kicked out, so I'll just relax and enjoy it. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door from outside. Leon signaled softly, come. Immediately, a clear female voice said, hello. Sylvia, now in the form of a maid, introduced herself calmly. My name is Elvia. From today, I will be your attendant, young master. Leon was momentarily stunned. What is this? What is this strange sense of familiarity? He thought to himself that she must have some mysterious story. No wonder Sylvia suddenly announced her retirement. It was because of this. It's odd in a fantasy world not to have other races, yet here there's even a dwarf. Leon then warmly stepped forward to greet her. Thank you, Elvia. Sylvia bowed respectfully and replied, yes, call me whenever you need any. He then sincerely added, thank you. Because of you, my brother and I have grown much closer. Sylvia fell silent and looked at him for a moment upon hearing that. Then she returned to her calm demeanor and asked in puzzlement, I'm sorry, young master. I don't quite understand what you mean. Leon laughed it off. It's nothing. While packing his things, he deftly suggested, can we talk later? Then, Leon stepped out excitedly. Today I'm going out with Rixel. Golden sunlight bathed the busy, bustling street. Rixel's eyes were full of confusion. No matter how he thought about it, none of this made sense. Why? Seeing Leon approaching looking so haggard made him wonder why his stamina was still so poor despite climbing mountains every day. Leon used to faint from exhaustion while walking 870,943 times and fall asleep while eating from sheer tiredness 34,963 times. Rixel tried to find the most reasonable explanation. Could this be lingering damage from a mana shock? His mana is depleted. I need to get a cleric to examine. He couldn't help but worry. Mages and the temple have never gotten along, but at this rate he'll collapse before the coming-of-age ceremony. Rixel carefully stepped forward to support him. Let me slow your pace. Leon clutched his chest with difficulty. Why am I so tired today? Rixel quietly calculated. So we must avoid being spotted by both the family and the temple, and ensure he can safely meet a cleric. It may take some time, but the most reliable way to see a cleric is through volunteer work. Rixel quickly sketched a plan in his head. Since the temple's doctrine encourages volunteer work, we can naturally approach the clerics that way. Leon recovered quickly and asked, Rixel, so where do we go now? Rixel warned cautiously. First, it's easy to draw attention if people see a young noble wandering about, so we need to buy some disguise items first. Leon glanced awkwardly. Disguise items, like a clothing shop. Rixel immediately denied it, smiling cheerfully. No, a magic goods shop. After a while, the two stopped at a small magic goods store. Leon stepped in and looked around curiously. He exclaimed excitedly that he'd traveled the whole territory, but hadn't expected a place like this to exist. Rixel strolled ahead. Only those who know about it come here. There shouldn't be any contraband, right? Saying that, he looked slightly uneasy and glanced away. Sure, Leon tensed. What do you mean by should? Leon continued to examine the other items, but he found shelves filled with things like earrings and pens. Lots of interesting items, though they looked like children's toys. Rixel awkwardly cleared his throat and explained that he'd stumbled on this place while studying at the academy. They may look that way, but many items have real functions. Leon's face lit up with understanding. I see. At that moment, the shopkeeper cheerfully came out to greet them. Of course. He enthusiastically boasted that his shop sold everything except hair regrowth potions. His nasal decongestants and automatic shampoo magic items were hot sellers. Rixel went straight to the point. We're looking to buy some disguise items. The owner happily led them deeper inside. Disguises. Of course we have them. They're over there. Follow me. He then pointed to a neat pile of shiny magic items. everything here is for disguises. From delicate bracelets for parties to inserts that add height, he introduced enthusiastically. The affordable items that slightly alter appearance are over here. Then he drew another curtain. The premium items that can even change hair color are over here. They're effective but much pricier. Rixel and Leon's gazes quickly fixed on a shiny item. This was a perfect disguise magic item that altered someone from head to toe, guaranteeing that even parents wouldn't recognize you after use. The two brothers exchanged a look, as if sharing the same thought. Shortly after, the door closed and the shopkeeper called out cheerfully, "Come again." Rixel carefully asked if Leon thought it was okay. Leon replied with a delighted laugh, "This place is fascinating. We'll come back later to examine it more closely." Then he glanced at the heavy bag in his hand. Rixel casually guessed they must have received some free items because they bought something expensive. Nothing special, shops aren't known for giving gifts. Leon looked down and suddenly noticed something. It was an item repair kit that could fix items below master rank. Leon was secretly amazed that they'd given him something more valuable than the hairpin. It must be because it's too old. Rixel noticed his reaction and calmly said he wouldn't use such things and told Leon to take them all. Leon asked in disbelief if it was really that good. Rixel nodded and confirmed it was fine. Leon eagerly handed him a hairpin. "Great, so let's go disguise ourselves first." Rixel looked around cautiously. "This alley is pretty quiet, let's go in there." Immediately, their golden blonde hair quickly changed color. Their eyes also turned a jade green. Leon glanced at his appearance and immediately gasped, "Awesome, this disguise is perfect." Rixel strode out comfortably. "With this we can go around without worry." Leon replied excitedly, "Let's go." After a while, Leon's voice rang out over the rushing water. "Rixel, you said we were volunteering, so why are we at a flour mill now?" He looked at the scene in front of him, bewildered. "We're supposed to volunteer, right?" Rixel calmly explained, "Yes, flour is on the donation list, so we need to stop by and check." He stepped in and added that interestingly, this mill also bakes bread to sell. "I've heard the bread made from freshly milled flour here is special." Leon's eyes widened. "Really? I thought mills only ground grain or pressed oil." Rixel felt a twinge of unease inside. "Of course, I have another reason for coming here." A man named Nicholas immediately stepped forward to greet them. "Welcome, I've been expecting you." Rixel had planned this. The reason was to meet this man. He's one of the few devout believers in the Asteria territory, known for donating generously and well-connected. If I build a relationship with him, I'll naturally gain access to the temple, and maybe even meet a cleric. Rixel quickly asked if the order was finished. Nicholas replied cheerfully, "Of course it's done." He spun around excitedly and pointed at the sacks inside. "It's been ages since I've milled such high-quality wheat. I'm overjoyed. The wheat has no sign of pests at all, but..." At that, Nicholas grew curious and asked why they needed so much flour. Rixel explained the situation. "I've seen some starving children and felt sorry for them, so I decided to donate a little." Nicholas grew even more excited. "A wonderful decision. Have you decided where to donate?" Rixel conveniently asked for suggestions. "I'm still thinking. Do you have any ideas?" Nicholas tapped his chin to think. Rixel prayed inwardly, "Please say the temple. Please say the temple." Then Nicholas proposed, "Would you be interested in donating to the orphanage run by the temple?" Rixel was thrilled inside. "Yes, absolutely." Outwardly, he remained composed and asked, "The orphanage is run by the temple." Rixel calmly asked how many children were there. Nicholas estimated, "Not many, maybe around 30. Rixel looked skeptical. "I thought the temple's facilities would be better." Nicholas explained softly that that used to be the case, but things are difficult now. "I've heard the temple's subsidies have been reduced." Feeling this might be delicate, he grew uneasy. This is the Asteria territory, where magic reigns, so they have trouble fundraising, and given the prestige of the distinguished magic families, they're reluctant to support an orphanage under the temple. Saying that, Nicholas's eyes subtly scanned and assessed the people before him. He considered quietly, looking at this large flower order and the way this young man carries himself. He seems to come from a very prestigious family. I hope this connection will help improve the orphanage's situation. Leon suddenly cut in. "Wait, you said you bake bread here too, right? Even if we donate flour, it'll take time for them to make anything from it." He rolled up his sleeves eagerly and suggested, "Then why don't we bake several loaves now and give them to the children?" Leon continued to persuade them. Even with flour, the kids probably lack other ingredients, and besides, freshly baked bread would surely delight them, right? Nicholas didn't hesitate and agreed happily. "Sure, of course. My shop is famous for making the best bread in the region." Rixel then suddenly realized he'd been so focused on his own goal that he hadn't considered the orphanage's situation. He hadn't expected to overlook these small details. He looked at Leon with admiration. "Big brother is always so thoughtful." Rixel quickly agreed. "That idea is truly great. Nicholas immediately brightened up. Wonderful. The three of them went inside to prepare. Then let's start baking right away. On the table now were whole wheat flour and premium olive oil. Leon pondered and observed. Let's see, we have plenty of flour and olive oil. The flavor will be excellent. Nicholas began a brief introduction. The bread we're making today is a basic barley loaf, very popular. It's simple to make but incredibly fragrant and kids love it. Saying that, he rolled up his sleeves and stepped forward. First, I'll make a small sample loaf. Nicholas started measuring out the ingredients, mixing a set amount of flour with salt and yeast and milk in the right proportions to form the dough, then placed it in an olive-oiled pan to proof. He explained as he deftly kneaded, then gently pressed the risen dough to expel the air bubbles, and finally mixed in some crushed sunflower seeds. And a smooth, well-mixed dough quickly formed. Done. Rixel followed the instructions and quickly produced a few. He thought to himself that it was really easy. Compared to magic, this was unbelievably simple. Then Rixel curiously glanced at Leon beside him. Have you finished already? Nicholas asked with interest. Still not done, young master. But Leon was still fiddling with the dough. I think I need a little more time. I can feel it. Nicholas was speechless and could only reply, yes, I understand. Then I'll bake your brother's portion and mine first. The soft raw dough pieces were quickly placed into the oven. A moment later, Nicholas eagerly opened the oven. Let's see how they turned out. They froze when they saw a small lump of black charcoal inside. Nicholas hurriedly explained and comforted them. Oh dear, if you put in too much dough the bread will burn like this. But since it's the first time I won't blame the young master. Besides, this is still pretty okay. The aroma of bread suddenly began to waft out. Nicholas immediately looked toward the oven in the back. Looks like the young master's loaves are done too. He quickly pulled out the baking tray. Let me see. Then a dazzling radiance suddenly flashed, forcing all three to shield their eyes. Wait, this is a whole wheat loaf made by Leon of exceptional quality. His cooking proficiency rose to level 2. Nicholas admired the perfect, crispy loaf in disbelief. How could you bake bread of such quality? He exclaimed and asked how he did it. Leon scratched his head and smiled awkwardly. I didn't do anything special. Then he spoke softly. This bread is for the children. Though they can't eat this every day, at least today I want them to have plenty of good bread. Leon's sincere words surprised Nicholas again, and if the loaves looked nice, the children would enjoy them more, so I scored a few lines on the tops. Unexpectedly, the result was better than I hoped. Nicholas's view of the Leon brothers changed instantly. At first I thought they were rich nobles pretending to do charity to experience common life, but I was completely wrong. Rixel also showed his amazement. Brother, you really have a talent for this. Leon laughed heartily and said thanks. Nicholas continued thinking that these two young masters bake for the children with all their hearts, so he suddenly asked, young masters, would you mind continuing to bake here for a while? There's a place I must go right now. Rixel was slightly startled, then quickly agreed. Sure, you must have your own business. We kept you here too long. Nicholas replied comfortably, it's fine. Saying that, he hurried off. I'll be back as soon as I can. Leon, seeing Nicholas's haste, felt awkward. He seems very busy. Did we trouble him by asking him to teach baking? Rixel calmly reassured him, it'll be fine, he'll return soon, so let's continue baking. Then he immediately regained his spirit. I'll also try my best not to fall behind you. Leon laughed excitedly. Then I can't lose either. The two of them returned to the fragrant loaves. The progress toward the apprentice baker achievement steadily increased. Under Leon's patient guidance, Rixel also began producing delicious batches. Before long, Nicholas's voice rang out, I'm back, young master. Leon turned and was stunned, you're back. But there were many people behind Nicholas. Leon was a bit embarrassed. You're not alone. A friendly woman explained, Nicholas isn't usually like this, but he told us he was deeply moved by your kindness, young masters, so we came to lend a hand. Ria unexpectedly came to lend a hand. Yes, my husband wanted to come for the children too, but he's too busy at the forge, so I came instead. Oh heavens, Leon quickly put a finger to his lips to silence her. Ria immediately flushed and stopped. Never mind. Then she suddenly set down a large chest of supply. Everyone quickly took out all kinds of ingredients accordingly. There was even a woman who made the crowd gape in surprise. She slammed down 4 enormous sacks at once, the ground trembling with the impact. People let out exclamations of awe. What is that? Look at her biceps. That's every farmer's dream. Excuse me, miss. They say you once fought a bear barehanded. Rixel watched the scene with excitement, surprised by how many essentials they had donated. Everything went so smoothly. Leon cherished the moment. Indeed, the people of our domain are very kind. Seeing the bright smiles on everyone's faces, Rixel reflected inwardly. Could this be the result of putting wholehearted care into the smallest deeds? I only thought of approaching Nicholas to meet the priest. Thinking back, I feel ashamed. Thinking that, he smiled at Leon and told himself that once his brother recovered his health, Rixel was confident he would achieve great things. A few hours later, at the orphanage attached to the temple in the Asteria domain, the donated goods were quickly delivered. Thank you so much. The headmistress was so happy she cried. I don't know how to repay the kindness of you noble young masters. Leon replied cheerfully. Please don't be formal, we're glad to help. Curious children ran over. What is this? It smells so good, oh my children. The headmistress awkwardly reminded them to greet first. Then the small courtyard quickly filled with the children's laughter. Look, there's so much stuff, let me see. There are clothes too, they're so pretty. The headmistress asked softly, young masters, if you don't mind, could you hand out the bread yourselves while I move these donations inside? Rixel eagerly agreed, of course, we're happy to. The two quickly took out baskets of bread. All right, come get your bread. The children ran up excitedly to take them. They looked delicious, thank you. At that moment, Leon's gaze fell on a small corner nearby. Under the shade of a tree, a little boy stood alone, quietly withdrawn. Noticing Leon's stare, the boy immediately turned and ran off to another spot. Leon asked with curiosity, headmistress, who was that child who just ran off? The headmistress quickly looked where he pointed and answered, that child is Peter. She explained gently, I'm sorry if the boy seemed rude. The children are still young and don't always know how to accept kindness. Please don't worry about Peter. Leon watched the small fleeing figure in silence. Peter, huh? Seeing the other children had already received bread, Leon smiled and said, it seems we've handed out bread to most of the kids already. The headmistress, seeing him walk by, asked, where are you going, young master? Holding the basket and smiling, Leon replied, Peter still hasn't received his bread. At that moment, Peter was sitting alone in a corner, with his knees pulled up. He recalled what people had told him. Peter had 3 adoption attempts canceled because of his shyness. Since then, the boy always refused food and donations like these. Leon silently regarded the boy, thinking that he looked about the same age as the Mudu children. He looked at Peter's thin arms and sighed. The boy is really thin. Leon gently called the boy's name, startling him, Peter. Seeing Peter not answer, he sat down and spoke softly, Peter, I brought something really tasty. Would you like to try a little? The others have finished theirs, only yours is left. Peter frowned, completely ignoring the noisy adults nearby. Leon, eyes sparkling, held out a loaf of bread, sweetly enticing him. At this hour, this would taste unbelievably good. It's made from freshly milled wheat, so it's chewy and delicious, fragrant and rich, and very warm too. No matter how proud Peter's mouth was, his stomach betrayed him. Seeing the boy flush and lie back made Leon quietly hopeful, so he really is hungry. Leon exhaled and gave a small smile, thinking if the boy was just acting spoiled, he would tease him more. But being this exhausted yet still refusing meant he needed to give the kid a little time. Until the sky had begun to take on a golden hue, the others cheerfully said their goodbyes. I'll head inside first. Thank you for your hard work today. Only then did Peter slowly open his eyes. I fell asleep. Well, that's fine. I guess everyone must have left by now. The boy sat up and muttered spitefully, what hypocrites. They just want to satisfy their own vanity by doing charity. Once they've achieved their goal, they never come back. Why bother disturbing us with these volunteer acts? Before he finished, Leon, who had been sitting there the whole time, squinted and asked, you're awake? Peter startled and shouted, puzzled by this strange adult. What is this? Why are you still here? Why haven't you left? Leon curled his lips and replied, you slept so well I couldn't bear to wake. Before the boy could recover, he brought the loaf of bread up to him. Aren't you hungry? I'm hungry, want to eat a bit. Peter stubbornly turned his face away. Are you sure? Leon took the bread back and said, fine, if that's the case then. No sooner had he spoken than he tore the loaf in half. To Peter's shocked eyes, Leon decisively lifted one half and began to eat. What are you doing? Leon feigned reluctance and answered, eating the bread, of course. You said you didn't want it, and throwing it away would be wasteful, so I have to deal with it. After saying that, he kept chewing, leaving Peter dumbfounded. Wait. The boy quickly snatched the half from Leon's hand and shouted, fine then, I'll eat it. Holding the piece in his hand, Peter didn't hesitate and bit off a big chunk. As soon as he swallowed, the boy's eyes lit up and sparkled. It's so good. Leon watched Peter eat with puffed cheeks and smiled softly. When half the loaf was gone, Leon took out another and offered it here. He nodded happily and said, this was actually my portion, but I'll give it to you. The fragrant loaf in front of him made Peter feel strange, really strange. There obviously wasn't any special ingredient, just an ordinary piece of bread. Peter stood frozen, puzzled. So why does it taste so good? The boy pressed his lips together bitterly. Things like this are usually just for show. Memories of being returned to the orphanage rushed back like a film. People are like that. Those who once treated me kindly ultimately left me here, using the excuse that I'm not their biological child. They abandoned me once more. Just thinking about it made Peter feel a sting in his chest. He He pressed his lips tighter. The boy chewed voraciously and said coldly, "Liars, all adults are liars." Leon cut him off before he could finish. "Peter, do you know?" Noticing the boy looking at him, he continued, "When adults are upset they often skip meals. They don't realize that only makes them feel worse and they'll regret it later. But even though you were sad, you still ate well and didn't skip a meal." An afternoon breeze lifted a few strands of Leon's hair, revealing his radiant face. When he baked this loaf today, he secretly hoped someone would enjoy it, so he's very glad you like. Peter went still, his eyes full of 1,000 feelings, something brightening within them. Before the emotion lasted 5 seconds, Leon squinted teasingly. "Look, are you crying?" The boy blushed and flustered, denying it. "I'm not crying. It's just that the bread is so good." He pretended to ask, "Is that so?" The boy clenched his teeth and looked away. "Yes." Peter hesitated for a moment. The boy said shyly, "Thank you." Hearing this, Leon gave a gentle smile. He held out his pinky to Peter and said, "Next time I'll make more for you. Come on, pinky promise." Peter stared, stammering about a promise. Leon added, "Just so you know, this eldest young master has never broken a promise." His eyes reflected reliability. "Remember that." The boy looked into that gaze and was dumbfounded. Peter's finger finally rose. "Next time I'll eat 2 pieces." Hearing that, Leon ruffled the playful boy's hair and said, "Why only 2? You can eat 3. With how much you ate today, next time I'll have to bake tons of bread." Peter muttered resentfully, "You jerk." Watching this scene from afar, the headmistress couldn't help but exclaim, "Oh my." She looked at Peter's radiant face and felt inwardly moved. It's been so long since she last saw that child's smile. If only we had shown such sincerity before the kids would have opened up to us earlier. From a distance, the headmistress heard Leon cheerfully say, "Now let's visit the other children." Peter squinted in reply, "Yes." That warm figure made the headmistress feel a pang of shame. "I feel truly ashamed for neglecting the children for so long with the excuse of being too busy. A sincere person like him truly deserves God's blessing." Later, the headmistress politely bade the remaining guests farewell. "Please visit again. Thank you all, of course. See you again. Excuse us, young masters, if you don't mind." Just as Leon and Rixel were preparing to leave, the headmistress unexpectedly called them back. "Could you stay at the orphanage a bit longer? We can't just let you leave after doing such a wonderful thing for this place." The headmistress smiled awkwardly and said, "I just checked. It turns out the temple is coming today to pray for the children, so." To the two's surprise, she continued, "Would you accept the priest's blessing before you go?" Rixel politely placed a hand on his chest, inwardly thrilled. Success. The headmistress was so thoughtful. Refusing would be rude. We'd be honored to accept. The headmistress gestured to lead the way. "Then please follow this path." The sound of carriage wheels came thundering closer. "The priest will be here shortly." The next day, Rixel sat alone in the parlor, heavy with silence. He recalled the earlier conversation. "Brother, could you postpone meeting the priest this time? He comes from the temple and I'm worried he might harm you." Leon agreed casually, "All right." Rixel hadn't expected him to agree immediately and was a little surprised. Leon stood and explained, "Actually, I just remembered I have something to take care of at the manor." He marveled inwardly. "That's it." Leon smiled brightly on the surface, while inside he was ecstatic. "So don't worry about me. Go handle your business. It's time for my baking lesson. I'll go ahead." Back in the present, Rixel exhaled. "This is fine. What my brother needs is a prayer imbued with divine power. It would be problematic if that priest bore ill will toward our family, so I should meet him first to probe." Just then a low voice rang out along with the door opening. "It's an honor to meet you." The man clasped his hands, his lips curving slightly and his golden eyes sharp. "May the grace of the Lord be upon this anonymous benefactor. I am Licht, a servant of the Lord." Rixel asked suspiciously, "Anonymous benefactor?" Licht sat down calmly and said, "I heard from the orphanage head that you wish to keep the donor's identity secret." "Yes, that's right." He silently sized up the suspicious man before him. He looked younger than he'd expected. Young priests usually stay in the temple, yet this one came out to offer a blessing. He's certainly not an ordinary person. Licht politely offered his thanks. "Thanks to your noble deed, the temple has received great aid. On behalf of all the priests, I sincerely thank you." Rixel responded politely, "It's nothing. This success was due to everyone's joint effort. But the one who truly put his heart into this was my brother. Even the idea to bake bread for the children was his." Hearing that, Licht looked up with curiosity. "Your brother?" Licht, as if recalling, asked, "Is he the one who returned home early due to health reasons?" Rixel nodded slightly, yes. He fidgeted with his fingers as he recounted. "My brother has been very frail since childhood, and even now he's struggling with a serious illness." Rixel raised his eyes and hesitated, speaking honestly. "I didn't come entirely out of charity or to volunteer. I arranged this hopping you could examine my brother." Licht narrowed his eyes and smiled. "Please calm yourself, benefactor. It's tragic that a righteous person must endure such torment from illness. However, I only came secretly to avoid the temple's notice." He watched Licht adjust his glasses and thought, is he refusing me? I can't read his expression at all. Yet he suddenly said, "In 3 days." The priest clasped his hands over his chest and smirked. "Exactly at this hour 3 days from now, could you and your brother come here once more?" Rixel returned to the manor and shouted loudly, "Brother, oh my God." He glared at his brother sitting there. "How are you still awake at this hour? With your health the way it is, you can't keep staying up late." Leon awkwardly flopped down to avoid the question. "I just can't sleep." Leon, a bit embarrassed, tried to deflect. "What's the matter? Why did you rush into the room like that?" Rixel cheerfully delivered the news. "That priest agreed to examine you." Upon hearing that, Leon sat up. "My body." Rixel nodded and explained, "Yes, he said he wanted to help since he himself received a great grace from you." Leon thought to himself that he's only a little weak right now. Calling it an illness isn't quite right, since his last mana awakening, the mana shock, has completely disappeared, and he never had a chronic disease to begin with. He recalled the things he'd been doing recently. Running here and there had actually improved his stamina. "Anyway, this isn't a bad offer. Should I accept?" Leon decisively agreed. "All right, I'll go." Rixel brightened at the news. "Really?" He then grew a bit solemn. However, the priest requested a meeting at dawn, which seemed odd. Leon asked suspiciously, "At dawn? When?" Rixel answered, "In 3 days." 3 days later, at the orphanage affiliated with the temple, Leon was disguised now, glancing at the water jar on the table. Holy water of high grade, he assessed inwardly. He looks so young yet can already produce this. Impressive. Rixel, who had been standing behind him unnoticed, called out, "Brother." Leon hurriedly replied, "I'm here." He pressed a hand to his chest and bowed slightly. "Honored to meet you, priest." Licht also clasped his hands. "May the Lord's grace be upon you both. I am likewise honored to meet such benefactors. First, why don't we sit down and talk a bit?" Once the three were seated, Leon voiced his question. "By the way, priest, there's something I'm quite curious about." Licht relaxedly said, "Please feel free to ask." Upon hearing that, Leon asked, "If you don't mind, could you tell me why you arranged to meet at dawn?" He hesitated a little. "This matter. Actually, I've recently dreamed about you two." Leon and Rixel were astonished. "A dream?" Licht put out a hand and smiled faintly in explanation. "Yes, sometimes priests with exceptional divine power receive revelations from the Lord through dreams. They're called prophetic dreams." Rixel, a bit cautious, probed, "May I boldly ask what kind of dream it was?" He smiled lightly. "It's nothing dramatic. Children sleeping peacefully in a field and the two of you standing right beside them. Your appearances were slightly different from now, but it was definitely you two. Upon waking, the dream left me with a very warm feeling, so I wanted to meet you in person." Licht added silently that he also needed to confirm something. He observed the two before him. "I want to see what the people who appeared in my dream are really like." Licht cast a sharp glance at Rixel. "First, the younger brother is a mage. He speaks politely, is well-mannered, and looks very young enough to need this disguise. He must belong to an influential family, in these lands likely the Asteria clan. Is his goal truly to cure his brother? It would be troublesome if mages were trying to siphon information from the temple. I'll know once I examine the elder brother." Licht asked Rixel, "Now that we've agreed, may I begin treatment?" Rixel nodded slightly and stood. "All right, I'll step outside for a moment. I'm counting on you." With Rixel out of the room, Licht approached Leon. "I'll begin now." Leon replied politely, "Thank you." Just seconds later, a stream of blue light radiated from Licht's hand, converging gradually onto Leon. Sensing something unusual, Licht raised an eyebrow in suspicion. He looked at Leon as if in disbelief. The blessing had been cast perfectly, so why was the body showing no change? My divine power isn't that weak. Thinking so, he continued to channel more divine power. Where did I go wrong? Even after casting twice, Licht was still shocked by Leon's condition. His face darkened and he gaped. Leon turned to him cheerfully and gently said, "I truly feel much better." He lightly squeezed the shoulder that had been tense moments ago. Very pleased, he continued, "Priest, I think receiving this blessing is more than enough." Licht flinched and hesitated. No. The confident look he first had was now tinged with worry. There are only 3 reasons a body wouldn't respond to a high priest's blessing. First, a mage of rank higher than the priest is blocking the treatment. Second, they were already fully healthy and no longer need the blessing. And finally, they are born with a short lifespan. Leon nodded slightly, smiling gratefully. "Thanks to you, I feel incredibly refreshed." Licht suddenly changed his tone and said softly, "My brother, if you ever need my help in the future." He stepped closer and clasped both of Leon's hands tightly, then lifted them up with sympathy. "Please come to the temple and seek me out when the physical pain becomes unbearable and you cannot find rest." A flame of zeal rose within him. "I will help you at all costs. Do you understand me?" Leon, still bewildered, could only say yes. He opened the door, not forgetting to offer a few parting words. "Thank you so much for your kindness, priest." It's nothing, take care, I hope we meet again. Watching Leon's figure recede, Licht withdrew his smile. He reverently watched and prayed, may the Lord's grace accompany you all your days. Leon scratched his head and muttered, why do I feel so uneasy? Cut to the Asteria manor. The carriage had brought the brothers home. Rixel said cheerfully, brother, I'm so glad you look much better now. This dawn trip was meaningful. Leon agreed, I think so too. He rubbed his shoulder, thinking happily that because his body was fundamentally strong, he couldn't fully feel the effect of the divine power. But it truly was a very useful energy. One casting would have been enough, yet he kept repeating it, which healed the shoulder that had been sore from staying up all night baking. The aching muscles were gone. But he worriedly looked at his younger brother, Rixel. Your complexion doesn't look good. Are you tired? Those dark circles are deep. Rixel narrowed his eyes and smiled reassuringly, I'm fine. He turned to leave. I have to go now. I have Mana training this morning. Leon startled. What? He sighed and muttered that last night you stayed up again, right? Pushing yourself like that, sooner or later your body will protest. From behind, Sylvia appeared and said the heir's training schedule is always grueling, and lately, he seems even busier. Leon rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Indeed, I'm worried the boy will harm his health. She stepped closer and said politely, if you're concerned, why not speak with the head of the household? You'll soon meet him to discuss the coming-of-age ceremony. Bring it up then. Also, the head has had many things on his mind recently. He brightened at the idea and devised a plan. Sylvia smiled faintly. Perhaps I should bring him some sweets. Shortly after, Leon and Sylvia were in the kitchen. He deftly took the rolling pin and flattened the dough beneath him. Leon cheerfully turned to her. Good idea, thanks, Sylvia. Cookies aren't too heavy and are moderately sweet. Even Grandpa. I wonder if Grandpa likes sweets. Her face unchanged, she corrected his form of address. I'm Elvia. Who is Sylvia? The head isn't especially fond of sweets, but he'll eat anything you make, young master, so you needn't worry. He blushed awkwardly and said nevertheless, if he'll eat them, I want him to truly enjoy them. Suddenly, Leon remembered something and let out an ah. Sylvia paused and guessed, don't tell me. Seeing Leon reach for the sweet potato on the table, she asked, are you going to use that? Leon picked it up and replied, yes. She watched him peel the potato and hesitated. That's an odd combination. He replied cheerfully, it's the perfect chance for him to try it and see how it tastes. Leon sliced the sweet potato into thin pieces. Instead of sugar, I'll dice some banana sweet potato and put it on the dough. With the gentle, natural sweetness of the sweet potato, Grandpa will surely enjoy it easily, right? After finishing preparation, he reached for the cookie cutter and continued, like this. Each cookie had been pressed into molds in all kinds of cute shapes. They looked adorable. I'll have to ask Mudu to make some new cookie cutters next time. Leon put them in the oven and said cheerfully, next step. Now we just arrange these shaped cookies on the tray and bake. Looking at the glossy, fragrant cookies, he said eagerly, they're done special banana sweet potato cookies. Leon glanced at the info panel that had appeared. Why does food have effects identical to a potion like this? Sylvia, surprised, praised, you're really amazing. I only shared the dough recipe, so you basically made all of this yourself. She frowned slightly and said the final step of cooking is tasting, so try one. He picked one up and said, I'll taste it. Leon took a freshly baked cookie and tasted it. The moment he tasted its sweetness, he beamed with a radiant smile. I think this is even better than chocolate chip cookies from my previous life. Cooking proficiency increased, recipe saved. Sylvia cheerfully advised that sweets help relieve fatigue, but eating too many isn't good for health. However, since these cookies aren't overly sweet, the head will probably like. He turned and said sincerely, thanks for your help, Elvia. You've been a great help. She shook her head with a smile. I'm just doing my duty. Now let's package the cookies. Leon hesitated as if remembering something and declined. I'll handle the packaging myself. You can go rest. Sylvia, surprised, said, what? He leaned in and said secretly, I still have one more thing to do. After Sylvia left, he nimbly used the system and muttered, I can't open the storage with Elvia standing right there. My cooking level is now 3. I've unlocked many recipes and have enough ingredients. He happily rubbed his shoulder and said next up is the drink. The system panel appeared, grants a resonance effect when paired with a drink. Leon selected ingredients from storage. Next, I'll make a training support drink. The red drink requires a potion base, fruit-scented oil, and flower roots. He was sure Grandpa and Rixel would like. Staring at the ingredient list, Leon felt a bit puzzled. These ingredients seem familiar. Where have I seen them? Oh well, it pairs perfectly with the cookies, so I'll just focus on judging the quality. After careful selection, Leon set the fruit plate on the table. Great, very fresh ingredients, ripe oranges and lemons. Leon braced his hands on the table. Excited, let's begin. First, wash the fruit and slice it neatly. Then simmer the primary healing potion, vials over low heat. When the oranges and lemons have slightly softened, Add the flower roots and wait for the fruit's fresh flavor to fully meld. When you smell the aroma, strain the steaming drink through a sip. Finally, add a drop of sea rosemary scented oil. A bottle of drink was completed, the alchemist's training support beverage. Seeing its effects, Leon exclaimed, "No wonder it feels familiar. This really reminds me of Vin Show." Tasting the drink himself, he smiled brightly. The flavor was excellent. Now pair this freshly made drink with the cookies. The tray now held both cookies and the drink, recognized by the system as a special meal set created by Leon. You have successfully crafted it. Achievement unlocked. You received shilling. Leon happily accepted the reward. This should be more than enough. He took off his apron and set it on the table. Leon carried the tray and set off. Time to go see Grandpa, right? Outside Patrick's study door, Leon called from the room, "Grandpa, are you busy?" When Leon opened the door and entered with the tray of pastries, Patrick grumbled, "What are you bringing in here? Even carrying things is left to you by the servants. I'll punish them at once." Before he finished, Leon smiled and cut in, "It's not like that. I brought them myself because I wanted to hand them to you personally." He set the tray on the table and cheerfully explained, "This is a drink I made using the potion base I crafted last time, and I baked a few cookies because I thought they'd pair well together." Patrick's tone softened noticeably at that. "You made these yourself?" Leon answered, "Yes." He looked Patrick in the eye confidently and said, "I thought it would be fun to show you my progress this way." Seeing Patrick pick up a bear-shaped cookie, he urged, "Please try it." The moment Patrick bit into the first cookie, he tasted it carefully, and his eyes widened in surprise. Patrick sensed the cookie melting in his mouth, the sweet, gentle aroma of sweet potato spreading. It brought a pleasant, abundant energy. It was completely different from a plain roasted sweet potato, a unique flavor with a perfectly balanced sweetness. The system panel chimed. Novice cooking proficiency increased. Leon inwardly pleased himself. Talent development request approved for cooking. Someone had to taste the food to earn experience points. Seeing the experience spike like that, he must really like them. What a relief. After finishing, Patrick adopted a stern tone. "All right, speak." Leon went blank for a moment. "Yes." Calmly placing his hand down, Patrick demanded, "I'm not interested in just this. Get to the point." Leon scratched his head and, embarrassed, said, "I really can't hide anything from you." He hesitated and then said, "I've heard my coming-of-age ceremony will be held soon. Could we let Rixel rest until then?" Patrick asked, puzzled. "Why is that?" Leon frowned worriedly. "The whole family will attend the ceremony, right? But Rixel's current schedule seems exhausting. Could you reduce his training intensity until the ceremony? I want our family to be there with bright smiles." Patrick propped his chin and pondered. Outwardly, he looked like a head of house in serious thought, but inwardly he swelled with pride for his grandson. What a considerate child, whose son could grow up so obedient, who raised such a fine boy. He observed the boy before him with increasing approval. He had feared they would vie for the headship, that they might easily fight over the position, and lately they'd seemed distant, yet they'd forged such a close brotherly bond without him knowing. Another thing to be proud of. He had no reason to refuse. "Very well, I'll grant your request. I'll tell him to train on his own until the ceremony." Leon happily agreed. "Thank you, sir." Patrick suddenly asked again, "Is that all? Don't you have any other requests for your coming of age?" Leon was slightly stunned. "Yes." Leon smiled with eyes narrowed. "No, I have no other requests." Patrick frowned in appraisal. "I don't know who he's like. He has no ambition at all, though gifts are a highlight of the ceremony. A coming-of-age ceremony isn't just a simple event. If the officiant desires it, one must obtain it. Even if it's a one-of-a-kind gem in the world, it's the most elegant way to display the clan's wealth." He was slightly stunned and surprised that the boy said he needed nothing. Does that mean? He widened his eyes and pressed his lips together, thinking, he wants me to find out and prepare something grand. Leon, seeing that determined look, nervously wiped his brow and said, "Then I'll take my leave." Patrick propped his chin, full of speculation, as Leon's back disappeared. He paced anxiously. "How should I handle this? How do I prepare the perfect gift?" Leon strode confidently down the manor corridor. Ahead were towering stacks of books and documents, piled messily on the desk. Rixel sat with his head propped on his hand, intently reading a document at a desk overflowing with paper. He suddenly pushed the door open and burst into the study, calling loudly and startling his brother. Papers flew everywhere with a racket. "Ah." Leon stepped in and looked around, laughing, while Rixel flustered to gather the documents from the floor. "What's going on in this room? I didn't expect you to be this messy." Rixel blushed and awkwardly covered his mouth to hide his embarrassment. "I'm so ashamed. I never wanted you to see this, big brother." "What brings you here?" He cheerfully presented a tray of pastries. "I thought you'd want a snack while working. I made them myself." The two brothers sat on the luxurious sofa, and Rixel popped a cute rabbit-shaped cookie into his mouth. Rixel's eyes widened in surprise right after chewing the first bite. A crisp, crunchy sound. His stunned expression turned into praise. "Oh my, this is excellent. I knew it from when you made that loaf. You're really skilled, big brother, come on." Leon asked with concern and urged his younger brother to rest before the important ceremony. "Rixel, Grandpa has given you a lot of tasks, so take it easy until my coming of age." He smiled and gently revealed that he had spoken to Grandpa out of concern for Rixel's health. "I already got Grandpa's permission. You look exhausted." Rixel felt deeply warmed and moved by his brother's thoughtful care. "I didn't expect you'd worry so much. Thank you, big brother, but I'm not tired from air training or house duties." The emotion was quickly cut short when his brother misunderstood the reason for his fatigue. "Don't tell me it's a love letter. I shouldn't have been curious then. It's not that at all." The two brothers alternated between crying and laughing as Rixel hurriedly clarified the real reason. "Well, at your age it's normal to notice girls. It's because of your coming-of-age ceremony." Leon realized then and asked, "So it's related to the family's ritual?" The Asteria family coming-of-age has a rite called the Library Maze. It's where skills are acquired, and it guides people to the magic they need most. Though it's called a maze, it adjusts to the user's level, so there aren't any confusing forks. If you try to conquer it forcefully, it becomes an impenetrable labyrinth. But if you follow its guidance, it's simply a library. The secrets of how the library operates and the dark memories of the former owner of this body gradually surface. The original Leon even used it as a lair before I took this body. And they say whoever reaches the maze's end may take a special item. Rixel probably thinks it's dangerous for me since I have no mana. Such a good kid. Leon spoke to reassure him, but Rixel's half-crying, half-laughing reply left him frozen. "It's okay, Rixel. The rite is mostly ceremonial anyway." "No, I'm worried about the outfit." He looked up with a blank expression and nervously asked, "The outfit?" "Yes," taking in the whole study. Rixel held up the document and asked, "Have you seen the outfit the head is meant to wear at your coming of age?" "No, I haven't seen it yet." He slammed the design onto the table decisively. "Here it is. The head has a fatal fashion flaw." The ceremonial outfit design was revealed. A sickly tight green bodysuit paired with green trousers, a blazing red cloak, and grotesquely bright red high heels. He has absolutely no sense of taste. It's over, a complete disaster. Forget the ceremony. It's ruined. Both brothers broke into a cold sweat, their faces clouding with despair. Leon immediately said, "This absolutely cannot be worn to the coming-of-age ceremony, especially with his image as the great Atring Archmage." The other nodded tremblingly. "I completely agree." The two clutched their heads and shouted in the chaotic space. He wondered, but he usually dresses so normally. Why the sudden change in taste? Rixel explained, because up until now Sylvia always stopped him from doing this. Leon was moved to learn the truth about Sylvia. Sylvia had been quietly protecting us all this time. "I'll find a way to stop this. Now you finally appreciate me. I want our whole family in matching tones. Proceed with the plan." The children cheered with joy. "Young master, it's the young master." Leon wore a simple cloak and warmly greeted the local kids. "How have you been lately, Thornleaf?" He bowed and handed over a bag of colorful cookies with a smile. "Long time no see. Here, please try these. I made these cookies myself." The two children happily hugged the bag and munched away. "Oh my, such a precious thing. By the way, what brings the young master here? I want to ask you all for a favor." Ria looked surprised at the unexpected request. "A favor? Do you all remember the tailor who volunteered at the orphanage with us?" Leon continued to request help finding that talented tailor from years past. "Could you introduce him to me?" "Yes, what?" The image of the skilled tailor appeared vividly in his memory, with exceptionally deft craftsmanship. "I caught a glimpse of his skill when we volunteered, and he was truly very skilled." He adjusted each child's clothing to fit on the spot, then quickly stitched new garments from scraps like a true master. Back in the present, Ria thought a moment before answering the urgent request to find a good tailor. "I need someone with his skill. Will this be difficult?" "Not at all. I can arrange it." But her face grew hesitant and uneasy. Noticing her reluctance, Leon asked, "Is there any other reason you're reluctant to introduce him?" "Yes, you'll understand when you get there, young master." Leon pulled his hooded cloak over his head, grabbed the bag of things, and went alone to a desolate, barren land. He stood before an old wooden sign covered in dust and cobwebs. "Is this the place?" The wooden sign suddenly trembled and creaked, nearly falling and startling him. "Am I at the right place?" The door opened to reveal a long row of mannequins lining a dim, dilapidated hallway, creating a somewhat gloomy, creepy atmosphere. "Something feels off. Why would such a talented person work in a shabby shop like this?" Leon timidly called into the dark void, "Is anyone here?" Suddenly, a mysterious figure appeared right behind him, making him jump. "Here, visitor." Andrew lit up, spreading his arms in a mix of excitement and surprise. "You're the customer." The tailor stood stunned as he recognized him. Aren't you the young master I met at the orphanage? Though your hair and eye color are different. Leon scratched his head and explained awkwardly, I'm very sorry I couldn't tell you the truth that day. I am the eldest grandson of the Asteria clan, but I had to disguise myself then for certain reasons. Andrew smiled broadly and took his hand respectfully. That's fine. It's understandable for a young noble to have his reason. He wondered aloud, but with your status, why would you come all the way here? Leon smiled slightly and replied, I'm looking for a talented tailor. Andrew was taken aback and nervously asked again, a talented tailor. For someone from the Asteria clan, you surely don't need to stoop to favor someone like me. Cutting off his embarrassment, the tailor remembered his manners and hurriedly led the way. Instead of standing here, please come inside, or shall we sit and talk properly? This way, please. He stepped inside and was drawn to the rows of colorful fabric rolls, the prestigious awards, and gold trophies displayed proudly on the shelf. Leon marveled, blushing with excitement. Isn't that the highest honor from the Empire's most famous competition? Andrew said awkwardly, I'm ashamed to host someone of your station in this shabby place. Andrew invited his guest to sit while he brewed some tea. Leon replied cheerfully, perfect timing. I brought cookies. Let's enjoy them with the tea. Tea was poured into cups, steam rising. Andrew apologized shyly, I'm sorry. I wish I could offer you something more refined, but my current circumstances are a bit, it's fine. Andrew was extremely surprised by this unexpected gift. These cookies are handmade. I hope you like them. Made by the young master himself. Andrew gazed at the cute bear-shaped cookie with a sweet heart in the center, recalling the old story. After all, he said the bread donated to the orphanage was also made by him. That bread was astonishingly delicious. He decided to savor the heartfelt cookie from the young master. I wonder how this cookie tastes. Thank you, I'll try it. The moment he took the first bite, the cookie's explosive flavor completely won Andrew over. What a burst of flavor. The refined taste experience began with a crisp crunch that melted softly, delivering a rustic, comforting sensation, starting crunchy and then instantly melting in the mouth, at first like a simple country boy. But then the flavor shifted powerfully, captivating like a dramatic love story. A romantic scene formed in Andrew's mind. The prince had his heart stolen at first sight by a country girl. The bright, stirring taste felt just like the thrill of first love. The pinnacle of sweetness immersed him, leaving him searching for words worthy of praise. Delicious hardly covers it. Andrew gasped in admiration. This is art. Leon calmly sipped his tea, exuding an attractively contrasting demeanor, exactly like the young master standing before him. Good, he seems to like it a lot. He may be seen as the clan's useless one, but in truth he's an unsolved mystery. The white porcelain plate bore a small crack, with only a few crumbs left. Andrew wiped his mouth with a cloth, sighing with satisfaction. This is truly wonderful, young master, thank you. Leon smiled and asked, did you enjoy it? He clenched his hands, his face beaming with excitement. Absolutely. I nearly cried. This cookie has ignited my inspiration. Andrew regained his seriousness. Young master, you came all this way and even gave me such a delicious treat. I'll be frank and hide nothing. Andrew looked toward the designer mannequins and guessed, you traveled here because you want me to make your outfit, right? Yes, I can definitely make it for you. He sat upright on the sofa, eyes sharp and confident as he declared, I'm confident I can draft patterns, cut fabric, and embroider better than anyone. However, Andrew explained, if it becomes known that I designed it, other nobles won't accept it. You might even be ridiculed if you appear in public wearing it. Leon was surprised. Why? It's because. Andrew gripped his hands and trembled on his knees, his face bitter, because I'm the illegitimate child of a noble family. So that's it. Privilege really makes people quick to look down on others. They say it lowers their dignity, that commoners mustn't touch their clothing, luxuries reserved only for the nobility. Is that all? Leon wondered if he really needed to flatter the nobles. When the rumor spread, even those who once sponsored me gradually cut ties. Many of them never wanted to be involved with me in the first place. The two sat facing each other as Andrew proposed. So if you hire me, just say the outfit was made by some unknown newcomer. Leon interrupted. Wait, can I see some garments you've made before? Andrew explained the shop's current situation and the items he owned. I've discarded all the garments I used to sell to nobles, so now I only keep clothes for common folk. That's fine, I just want to see your workmanship. If that's the case, Andrew decisively pulled away a dust-covered curtain, revealing a secret display space behind it, to the young master's astonishment. Andrew confidently introduced the pieces he had poured his heart into for local laborers. These are the items I sell to the people in the area. Unbelievable. Before Leon, rows of item stat panels shimmered into view, proving the exceptional, standard-setting craftsmanship. Truly top-tier garments. A ready-made bolero jacket by a skilled two-star tailor. Leon looked around the tailor's shop. This is exactly who I need. He assessed the tailor's outstanding skill. Ready-made cotton trousers by a skilled tailor. a ready-made ceremonial dress by a skilled tailor. With this fabric rated 2 stars, it indicates all other conditions are spot on. Leon began to hatch a big idea as he eyed the stacks of premium fabric. What if someone like this were given top-grade cloth? He made a surprising proposal that stunned Andri. Andri, I really want to wear clothes you make at my coming-of-age ceremony. Andri warned anxiously, but young master, this is a huge opportunity for me, yet you'll certainly lose face. I guarantee no one will dare utter a word about it. Now just tell me if you can do it. Leon nonchalantly held up 3 fingers and set the time frame. 3 outfits before the coming-of-age ceremony. The pressure made Andri sweat with worry. Is that feasible? He encouraged him confidently. I'll take full responsibility, so be honest. Are you willing to go all out? Andri clenched his hands as his desire to prove his talent surged. To make stunning garments from prime fabrics, to freely showcase his skills without worry. What tailor could refuse such an irresistible offer? Andri blushed and bravely accepted the exciting challenge. At your command, young master. A wise choice. He was eager to start designing. What style would you like me to sew? What details should I include? Leon began listing exacting requirements. I want them to look refined and tidy while retaining a minimum of elegance. Because the family will wear coordinated outfits, I want unity, but each person should have distinct features, and they shouldn't look too old or too childish. Refined yet elegant, same but different. Andri realized with a shock, wait a moment, does that mean even the head of the house will wear clothes I make? Yes, any problem. Are you truly okay with this? He worried because he was despised by the nobility. As I said before, I'm a tailor the nobles intensely hate. Does that affect your clan? Andri further explained the supreme status of the Asteria clan. No one dares make a peep against the Asteria clan, a family withstanding on par with the royal house, right? The affirmation left him momentarily stunned. Leon's recognition gave Andri great motivation. I, Andri, will devote all my effort to sew them for you. Inspiration surged and he quickly completed the design drafts. Oh, an exact design just came to me. Have you targeted any specific fabrics? Actually, I don't know anything about that, so I brought this. This is the Asteria clan's fabric catalog. The stuff talked about like a legend among tailors. He was moved and asked permission to open the legendary book. Just seeing this with my own eyes would make me content. May I open it? Of course, take your time. The sound of pages turning echoed. Andri was stunned as he saw the pages glittering. Oh my heaven. The catalog contained the rarest fabrics on the continent, all top-grade textiles gathered from across the land, spirit silk, famed for being produced by only a few spirits. Legendary materials that seemed to exist only in imagination, breath of the immortals, woven from the devotion of archmages. It's surprising these fabrics actually exist in real life. Leon smiled and probed for Andri's verdict. So, have you picked any material? The thing is, there isn't a fabric I don't like, young master. Suddenly he froze at a mysterious page. This is. Leon leaned in curiously at Andri's expression. What's wrong? Is there something off about that fabric? When I was at my peak, there was a cloth a certain madam loved to use. Andri explained the fabric's strange disappearance from the market. It's impossible to find, so it's astonishing to see it in this catalog. I never forget any fabric I've touched. I've always wondered what it was, but sadly there's no information about it here. Leon bent over to study that swatch closely. Let's take a look. A system info panel appeared with astonishing stats about it. The great Archmage's deep affection. Could this really have been made by my grandfather? Andri had said a madam once used this fabric to make garments. He pondered as he read the fabric's description, and the description listed Great Archmage. So that would mean, if it's meant as matching family outfits, we must use this fabric. Leon immediately decided on the material for the garments. Andri, can you sew with this fabric? Of course I can do it. Andri smiled and prepared to get to work. Then let's start by taking measurements. A new character appeared, cutting into their session. Brother, are you handling business? I heard the news and I'm a bit late because I was gathering some supplies. The younger sibling's arrival surprised the two in the room. Supplies. It sounds like things outside are pretty chaotic. Shouts rang from outside, startling them both. Move everything inside, understood, sir. Andri gaped at the impressive scene in the courtyard. What is this pile? A stream of expensive tools was being carried in rapidly. I heard you found a tailor you like. If it's for a once-in-a-lifetime coming-of-age ceremony. Rixel proudly introduced the clan's grand support. Then this level of backing is only natural. Leon could only laugh. You've prepared too thoroughly. How is it usable? You must be used to older tools, so I guess this pile would be no, sir. Andri suddenly hesitated, then made a new decision. I'll use them. He was deeply moved by the sincerity. I'd be immensely grateful if you replaced this whole set for me. He expressed his appreciation. Great young master. thank you for patiently waiting while I finished the measurements. Andri, full of zeal, promised to create a masterpiece. I will devote all my ability to craft a work of art. Take your time. Leon smiled and made one more small request. And one more thing I'd like to ask. The request to learn sewing stunned everyone. Could you teach me some sewing skills in your spare time? What? How could I dare teach you, young master? Andri panicked and cautioned out of fear. The young master might get hurt. No, I mean if you learn stitching for the first time you'll prick your fingers all the time, and sewing machines can cause sudden accidents. Leon reassured him that he only wanted to try it for fun. I'm not planning anything difficult, just want to give it a try for fun. May I boldly ask why not? The young master's understanding moved the tailor deeply. The reason. After talking with you, I realized how skilled and passionate you are, and I also saw how meticulous your aesthetic sense is. It would be a shame if I couldn't fully appreciate your hard work after you put so much effort into sewing these garments. So I think I need to understand the techniques first to truly grasp the maker's intent. Andri choked up at the young master's praise. I didn't expect you to think so deeply. Indeed, every stitch, every applied technique, even the way the silhouette is constructed, tailors embed a specific intent into them. Andri respectfully expressed his gratitude and loyalty. I'm very willing to teach you everything I know and reveal nothing. He carefully instructed the young man before temporarily leaving to prepare. First, would it be okay if I take the second young master's measurements before we begin? If you have any questions about the items here, feel free to examine and try them out. Thank you. The peaceful scene of the wooden house at dusk. The sky dyed golden over one corner. Leon stepped into the tailor's workshop and couldn't help admiring the surroundings. No matter how many times I look, it's still impressive. He approached the table and inspected the coarse fabric as a system stat panel evaluated its quality. A worn cotton trouser pattern from a craftsman. The fabric quality is terrible, fraying wherever there's excess. How on earth did he make clothes from such poor material? He lifted the trousers to study their construction and learn the tailor's cutting method. Let's see, so it's just stitched together like this. Should I try sewing it myself? Looking at his still clumsy hands, he told himself. He hadn't been properly taught and lacked some basics, so using 3 convenient tools right away didn't feel right. He should try hand sewing first. Suddenly, Leon remembered he owned a perfect gadget for this. Lucky me, I actually have something ideal on hand. The craftsman's repair kit, the magic goods shop gave me last time. His hands began to move nimbly, focusing entirely on finishing the piece. If not used now, when else? Leon was astonished when he saw the needle. Its appearance had changed. He couldn't help but be excited by this special magical item. It transforms to look brand new when you use it. Magical items are really fascinating. It even threads itself automatically. Sitting at the work table, Leon eagerly got to work. All right, let's see. The brilliant late afternoon light cast over his focused silhouette as he sewed. The engrossment in sewing surprised him. Why is this so absorbing? The more he sewed, the calmer and more focused his mind became. I thought I'd get bored quickly doing such meticulous work, but instead it soothes me. The more I concentrate, the more even my stitches become, and I'm starting to pick up speed. A magical guideline appeared to help him complete the work easily, and I can even see a guiding thread. Is this thanks to the magic item's power? Much easier than I thought. The worn cotton trouser pattern. Leon happily inspected his impressive first result. Not bad at all. A sudden noise from behind made him start and turn. You're finished. Sorry, I should have called out first. Andri was stunned by the young master's natural talent. It's nothing. I couldn't bring myself to interrupt since you were so focused. You started sewing from this side, right? For a first-timer, this skill is. He was surprised and impressed examining the trousers. Though it's a bit uneven, it's truly impressive. Andri suddenly remembered a sewing technique he had long forgotten. My goodness, how strange. This is exactly what I've been missing all this time. He zealously got to work, sweating profusely. Hand sewing has always been the core foundation of high-end bespoke suits. I've been so busy making ready-made clothes lately that I almost forgot this. Andri immersed himself in creativity, oblivious to his surroundings. Right, I'll emphasize this part to make the outfit look more elegant, and I'll raise this section to add more emphasis. It would be great to secure that area firmly. The old man has sunk into his own world again, hasn't he? The 2 young men decided to let the tailor continue working and head back first. Should we go back ahead of them? Let's do that, after all, for today. Rixel said thoughtfully. The whole family also has a dinner appointment with the head of house. The steward entered the workshop and bowed respectfully to report. Sir, the young masters have arrived. Shall we go down to the dining room? Putting down his brush, Patrick exhaled softly after a day's work. Very well. The 2 strode down the grand corridor, beneath the chandelier. The steward spoke first to dispel the silence. It's rare for the 3 of you to dine together. Indeed, sometimes there should be moments like this. His expression turned grave when mentioning great matters. I'm not eager to toil myself to exhaustion. I do this because it's the best way to protect them. Of course you'll be tired from taking on his burdens. Patrick gazed sadly out the window. Those damned royals. The war with the demon tribes ended 50 years ago, yet they still drain this old man's strength. The steward quickly tried to reassure him at the master's melancholy. How much longer do I have left? I just want to spend my remaining time with my grandchildren. Please don't say that. An 8th rank mage has a lifespan comparable to the spirit folk, doesn't he? Suppose so. He continued walking, reaffirming his supreme responsibility. It's rare for our main lineage to gather fully. As head of house, I cannot be absent. You are absolutely right. The large dining room doors opened. The servants called out in unison with respect. The head of house has arrived. Whether it's because I'm old or because that flattering grandson softens my heart. The two brothers looked up simultaneously. Now I just want to live out the rest of my days in peace with the treasures my child left behind. But to do that, we absolutely must not let anyone discover that child's potential. Leon smiled. Greetings, sir. He wondered at the ostentation of the family dinner. It's just a family meal. Does it have to be so showy? Rixel explained why the meal was special. It's been hard to get the family together, so I told the head chef to make a few special dishes, so that's why. He recalled lonely meals of the past. Thinking back, I often skipped meals or ate bland patient food, while you always ate at the Imperial Palace. Leon realized the loneliness his younger brother endured, so Rixel must have eaten alone. He looked at Rixel with a thoughtful gaze. He must be very lonely. Leon decided the family needed more reunions. That's right, we must have more days like this. He felt pity for his brother's loneliness. Little brother, I knew it. He must have been very lonely. It must have been hard to bear everything alone. He resolved to change that with gatherings from now on. For him, I should tell grandfather. No, I'll propose the head of house organize more family gatherings. Leon smiled happily. Rixel, you won't have to eat alone anymore. Before the meal, the steward carefully helped Patrick into his chair. Everyone responded in unison to the invitation. Let's dine, yes. The clatter of cutlery shattered the dining room's silence. Putting aside the initial quiet, Patrick inquired about his grandson's progress. Rixel, how is the task I assigned you coming along? Yes, everything is being handled perfectly. Although he answered smoothly, Rixel couldn't hide his tension. Rixel's gaze turned cold. He thought to himself, after all, this is my brother's coming of age, delayed for 3 years before it could happen. Didn't you at least ask how he felt, or what kind of gift he'd like? This atmosphere is certainly not what he'd hoped for. I need to steer the conversation, grandfather. Leon summoned his courage to ask, did you once weave fabric for mother? After the question, Patrick didn't answer immediately but slowly took a sip of wine. I don't understand what you're saying. Leon subtly watched his expression. Told you, mention mother and he gets uncomfortable. He began his story gently while eating. Today I met a tailor, and while talking I happened to see a very special piece of fabric from our family. He looked seriously at his younger brother for agreement. Rixel, you remember too, the shimmering fabric among the things you brought home. Yes, I remember. Memories of Andrew flooded back. The tailor told me a story from his youth about a young lady who favored a particular fabric. Leon continued with persuasive reasoning. He said our fabric is identical to the kind that lady used to bring, since he hasn't found that fabric anywhere else, but it appeared in the Asteria manor. I wondered if that lady might be mother, so I asked. Patrick fell into a contemplative silence at his grandson's unexpected question. So that's it, the topic of mother. The dining atmosphere instantly grew heavy and gloomy. Perhaps this is the thing our family most wants to avoid. A close-up of the warm soup on the family's lavish table, but we can't keep burying and ignoring it forever. Being able to speak freely about the deceased may be the only way to truly comfort and heal one another. A confident smile formed as he thought of a plan to reconcile. What we need now is a breakthrough to reconnect. So I'll use these matching outfits as an excuse to mend relations and help everyone open up. Patrick finally voiced his agreement with his grandson's idea. Leon, just as you said. The surprising truth from his own mouth froze the dining room. That fabric was indeed woven by my own hands. The two brothers stared in bewilderment and asked again, you wove it yourself? May I ask why? Holding the wine glass, he gave it a light shake as if recalling a distant memory. There's no grand reason. A father's worry for his only daughter was natural. The past returned, where every yarn was chosen with care and love. I feared she'd fall and be hurt or get sick from rain and cold. So I chose the best enchanted yarn, imbued protective spells into each thread, then had it woven into cloth, and yet, memories of his deceased daughter crossed Patrick's mind. He hadn't expected that fabric to survive all these years. Rixel looked down at the table, moved to tears by thoughts of his mother's fabric. Rixel never showed it, but he must have always been curious about his mother. By clutching my own broken heart, I left my grandchildren to be lonely. To break the somber mood, Leon spoke up enthusiastically. I plan to use that fabric to make some suits. Are you worried there won't be enough? Don't worry about running out. Don't be ridiculous. Thank you, sir. But his next question stunned the patriarch again, almost making him drop his wine. When are you free to go to the tailor with me? What? Patrick was very surprised by the proposal. I thought only the two of you would wear them. What are you saying? Of course you must wear one too. Rixel quickly offered a sensible suggestion, brother. While I agree everyone should wear them, the head of house's schedule is very busy. Why not invite the tailor to the manor instead? Good idea. The old man finally gave in to his grandchildren's cleverness. Very well, as you wish. Since you're in charge of this, Leon, I'll follow your lead. Thank you, sir. Leon inwardly cheered that the initial plan had worked. Great. With his approval, we won't have to worry about grandfather's odd fashion sense ruining the designs, and everyone has started talking more naturally. He smiled brightly as a weight was lifted. Now I can focus on preparing for the coming-of-age ceremony. The manor's atmosphere warmed and filled with light, and then everything proceeded smoothly. Andri arrived at the residence and began measuring professionally. Thanks to Andri's visit, the suit preparations ran smoothly. The maids and servants busied themselves preparing for the ceremony, and the decorations for the event were put in order. The clan's unity sped everything along, and they also received full support from the old man and Rixel. Brother, don't overwork yourself. Leave the troublesome tasks to me. I'm really worried about the household expenses. Truthfully, I hardly had to lift a hand. The needles and threads were prepared for the final steps. But thanks to that, determined to spend time on his hobby, he began a sewing practice session. I finally have time to devote to refining my sewing skills, but something feels off. Everything seemed to proceed as usual until an unexpected notification appeared. Normally at this hour, a new talent should awaken just as he was sewing. New talent. Tailoring proficiency has reached apprentice level 1. Instead of rejoicing, Leon felt suspicious. There should be a notice like this popping up, so why didn't anything happen? Doubt quickly turned to fear. Why is that? Though it's not as bad as when I was a blacksmith. My work is still pretty good. I made it all by hand without a sewing machine, so why hasn't the talent awakened yet? This time I didn't skip any basic steps. He quickly dismissed the fear and tried to explain the delay. Could it be that I simply lacked talent for this? No, don't jump to conclusions. I've spent so much time sewing. If there's a lack of talent, it must be in cooking instead. He began questioning the difference between the two skills. So what's the difference between tailoring and cooking? Is it the tools? Or do I need a master to guide me like Elvia when I learned alchemy? The doubt rapidly escalated into extreme panic. But my alchemy relied more on tools than instructors, so where exactly is the snag? A servant suddenly entered and announced, "Young master, Andri has arrived." Sylvia rushed in to report on the costume preparations. Are the clothes finished? It seems they're done, but his expression looked a bit odd. He was puzzled by her hesitant manner, odd expression. Yes, it looked as if. Sylvia's face was full of worry and tension. Something terrible has just happened. Leon hurried down the corridor after hearing the news. Andri has arrived, but something seems wrong. I've asked him into the parlor for now. Do you want to meet him immediately? As he walked, he wondered what could have happened. What could possibly be the matter? Leon pushed open the parlor door and froze at the sight. The room was filled with dazzling suits on display. Isn't this like bringing an entire showroom over? He couldn't help but marvel at the scale of the collection. How did he manage to bring all of this by himself? Everything looks fine to me. Leon excitedly called out to his familiar designer. Uncle Andri, you're here. I've been waiting for you. Andri politely handed over the finished outfit for him to try on. This is the young master's ceremonial suit. Would you like to try it on as well? So beautiful, the master tailor's high-grade ceremonial suit. Leon quickly slipped into the meticulously tailored coat. He shone brilliantly before the large mirror. So beautiful, the master tailor's high-grade ceremonial suit. But Leon soon noticed a melancholy on Andri's face. What's wrong? You don't seem happy. Andri's expression turned a little troubled. No, even I must admit it's extremely beautiful. It's just that one thing worries me. A system notification flashed with good news and then poured cold water on him. You've obtained an excellent quality outfit, yet it's not suitable for attending the banquet. What? Something's missing. Find what's missing and put Andri's mind at ease. He examined it for a moment and then brightened. I understand. Leon touched the collar. The collar looks too bare. Andri flushed, his eyes sparkling as if he'd found a like-minded genius. Exactly, young master. Around him sketches of accessories were drawn. The suit itself is perfect, but it lacks a focal point. A tie, a neck ribbon, a cravat, even a pocket square is missing. Leon propped his chin and contemplated the wardrobe conventions of this world. That's right, In this world, those details matter a lot. Let's see. He pictured his grandfather and family wearing his designs. If everyone's outfits follow this style, grandfather should wear a formal, elegant tie. And because Rixel is still young, a youthful neck ribbon would suit him better. Andri stood before 3 mannequins draped in 3 unfinished ceremonial suits. Hesitating, "Young master, forgive me, but may I ask a favor of you?" asked. Andri stood before 3 mannequins draped in 3 unfinished ceremonial suits. Hesitating, "Young master, forgive me, but may I ask a favor of you?" asked. Leon gaped, eyes wide in shock at the request. What? Andri offered to teach him everything. "I'll teach you everything, from making ties to embroidery." Wait, before that. Leon was surprised and anxious about the offer. Would it be rude for me to alter a master's work without permission? Andri began to recount a story from the past. "Is there a reason you're asking me like this? The thing is," Andri explained the connection between your mother and these garments. "Actually, when I measured the head of the house the other day, I learned that the young lady I used to sew for long ago was your mother. Even though I was just an obscure, humble tailor, she thanked me." The profound meaning of clothes made out of love. That's when I realized, both then and now, the garments she made for those she loved carried tremendous significance. Andri advised him to personally finish the outfit. If the head of house entrusted enchantments into each stitch for his child, then the young master himself should be the one to complete the garment, because this outfit needs something that Andri cannot provide. A happy smile and his realization of the truth. It surely wasn't an easy decision for a proud tailor. It turned out that sewing beautifully wasn't everything. Leon clenched his fist and smiled confidently. "He was kind and thoughtful toward me like that. I must do my best, I understand." He removed the trial coat as he spoke. "I'll leave everything to you, of course. Let's start choosing the style. Please sit here." Leon sat at the drawing table and immediately picked up a pen to sketch. "Actually, I just had this idea." The sketchbook page displayed sharp hand-drawn designs of ties and neck ribbons. "I get your idea. You want the head of house to exude noble elegance, and the second young master to look youthful yet still stylish. Yes, I want everyone to recognize the clan's heir at a glance." Andri turned to him and asked, "And young master, which style would you like for yourself?" Leon made a decision. "I'll decide after finishing everyone else's." "Understood. Then let's start practicing with the basic tie." A silk ribbon for a tie appeared on a sparkling background. The structure of a tie is like this. The loop around the neck is the locking section, the narrower end is called the small blade, and finally the wide end, like this sword-shaped panel, determines the tie's overall silhouette, so its details must be handled with great care. Leon nervously asked, Uncle, you keep using sword-related terms. Did I misuse the words?" "Don't say those things in front of grandfather. He isn't fond of the sword Saint clan." He observed the fabric and commented, "You didn't use interfacing." Andri praised in surprise, "Your eye is sharp. Normally we would, but this time it's unnecessary." He explained as he smoothed the white silk. "The silk we use is premium and holds its shape for a long time. Expensive fabric makes a difference, really top quality." Andri beamed, ready for the work ahead. "All right, let's begin." Leon humbly received the praise. "Well done. You don't need to flatter me like that. The tie is too good for the maker's skill. Now let's move on to the next step." They discussed the idea of embroidering the family crest onto the garment. "We'll try embroidery now. Do you have any ideas?" "Yes, of course. I want to incorporate our family crest." The deep meaning behind the crest he chose. A crest is like a brand emblem. Give it a convincing meaning and it looks elegant instantly. "Look at these leaves attached to the branch. I designed them to signify our family will remain united forever." My goodness, such depth. Andri agreed and encouraged the young master to begin embroidering. "Then let's embroider with that meaning in mind." He instructed embroidery techniques to achieve subtlety. The most important thing in embroidery is surface texture. Clarify that part, and the motif will look natural and refined. Leon confidently pledged to finish on time. "I understand. This is all about practice making perfect. Give me 3 days, and I'll complete it all within that time." Andri expressed absolute faith in his talent, of course. "I have full confidence in you, young master." A few days later, his finger was pricked and bled with a cry. Leon held the injured fingertip in his mouth, thinking, "Lucky, it didn't go in deep. It looks fine." In the following days, I stitched like a madman and was pricked by needles countless times. I quickly used up the samples Andri left and then drafted my own patterns. He resolved. I also intentionally avoided using the magical repair kit, because if I kept relying on its guidance, I'd never improve. Call me stubborn if you like. Leon held his head in frustration, slumped over the worktable and sighed. It seemed a bit better, but thinking back it was still ordinary. This really isn't easy. Being pricked by needles repeatedly makes me want to give up. He leaned his head back in the chair and complained wearily, "My shoulders hurt, my eyes hurt." He stared at the garment laid out on the bed in front of him. standing silently without a word. Leon clenched the fabric on the table with his hand, his eyes lighting up again. No quitting now. My speed is starting to pick up. A brilliant golden light suddenly enveloped his sewing hand. A golden task notification shimmered into view. New talent. Tailoring proficiency has reached apprentice level 1 at last. Leon's tailoring skill rapidly leveled up after he personally completed the fabric cutting steps. Now tailoring proficiency has reached apprentice level 2, riding the momentum. Achievement unlocked. Reward, 3,000 shilling. He continued smoothing out each fold meticulously and kept receiving system notifications about skill upgrade. He paused to ponder the principle behind awakening crafting skills. Wait, does awakening a crafting talent depend on? Staring at the fabric sketched with a leaf embroidery, Leon wondered how much he actually needed the finished piece. How badly did he want it? He recalled previous awakenings, when real need had always been the strongest catalyst. For example, when the blacksmithing talent awakened, he desperately needed a sickle and a hoe to make medicine. When the cooking talent awakened, he also needed oil to make bread and biscuits. Rosemary sea oil gave off a refreshing aroma. New talent, cooking. Cooking proficiency reached apprentice level 1. But with tailoring, no matter what he did, it only increased proficiency. The talent itself had never awakened. Having identified his current goal, he decisively prepared the next required materials to focus on completion. In that case, what I need now is this. He confidently made decisive snips without following a pre-existing pattern. Luckily, he hadn't used the repair kit from the start. No guide, yet it still looked good. Premium tie. The tie's value rose thanks to the artisan's. Leon prepared to embroider the decisive motif to elevate the piece. Nice. The artisan's touch finally activated. If he embroidered now. A white tie embroidered with leaf patterns in luxurious gold thread appeared in a sparkling aura. Top-tier tie. The system issued consecutive praises. Unbelievable quality for an apprentice tailor's product. A masterpiece worthy of display anywhere. As soon as the tie was worn with the outfit, the system immediately announced the 2 matching items had upgraded into a complete set. The resonance effect granted an additional point. Leon looked at the brilliant result and cheered with joy. I did it. Before him was the premium suit, dazzling to behold. He inspected the finished piece and exclaimed with delight, my first 4-star item. This suit can keep body temperature stable regardless of outside weather. Leon read that and flinched. There's a bonus effect too. At the same time, the system notified that Leon's great tailor achievement had reached 1/3. Seeing that line, he smiled excitedly. Impressive. If Rixel's clothes and mine both turn out like this, the achievement will be completed soon. Then Leon held the scissors and cheerfully encouraged himself. Stay calm and stay focused. Sharp snips flashed quickly across the soft fabric. With skillful hands, he turned that white fabric into a bow tie, a gem sewn in the center, catching a streak of light under the lamp. After the bow tie was attached, another effect was added. Now it not only kept the body warm, but also granted immunity to a certain amount of physical and magic damage. The progress bar reached 2/3. Leon felt proud and said, Great, Rixel's outfit is done too. Next, he glanced awkwardly at his own outfit beside it. Now my own clothes are the issue. Leon raised a hand to his chin, thought, and frowned as he murmured. With the family's reputation, I can't wear something sloppy, and the host of the party not wearing a tie would look odd. Plus, I don't want it to match my grandfather's or Rixel's tie. Then an idea struck him. I'll shorten the long tie and turn it into a tie pin. Leon picked up a pen, sketching smooth lines on paper as he murmured to himself. The focal point of the tie will be a gemstone. Let's see. Next, he looked toward a box nearby. I'll use one of grandfather's old gems. Leon watched the gems sparkling and thought with pleasure. This one looks perfect. It looks exactly like the eye color of someone in my family. Then he gently set the purple gemstone at the front of the collar and exclaimed excitedly, Attach the gem here and it's finished. As soon as Leon completed that action, the great tailor achievement was also completed. Along with generous rewards, the system also said that because Leon had done something extraordinary, he would receive extra money. Leon couldn't hide his surprise at the sight. Extra money too. At that moment, the system notified him he had over 100,000 shilling and could buy everything available. After reading those lines, he grew excited. 25,000 shilling at once, and the shilling shop is finally unlocked. I have to check it out immediately. Leon was lost in joy and didn't notice hurried footsteps behind him. Suddenly, the door was thrust open with a thunderous crash that made him start and shout. Seeing Rixel's frantic figure, Leon stammered in fear, Rixel, why are you here? Rixel stormed in, scowling and growled, Tomorrow is your coming-of-age ceremony. Why are you still sitting here sewing, brother? I heard you stayed up 3 nights in a row. At this rate, you'll faint before the ceremony even starts. Leon's hair rose at the thought and he wondered in panic. I'm under a deadline and have no choice but to pull all-nighters. but how did the kid find out? Rixel's expression was icy as he suggested in a low voice, "Go to sleep now." Perhaps Leon was so intimidated by Rixel's wide-eyed stare that he cried out once. At the same time, Sylvia somehow produced a blanket, wrapped Leon up, and smiled brightly. "You're right, second young master, come on, let me take you to sleep." Wrapped like a cocoon, he could only whimper silently. "No way, the shilling shop just unlocked. Don't make me sleep before I get to look through it. Just a little, please let me see for 1 second." Before him, the grand castle glittered under the blazing sunlight. At that moment, a voice echoed within the castle, "Young master." Sylvia stood beside Leon and gently remarked, "You look very dashing today, especially that tie, it suits you well." Hearing this, he breathed a happy sigh. "Really? That's a relief." A thought flashed through Leon's mind at once. The effort paid off, even if I faint as soon as I hit the bed. The steward at that moment dabbed his eyes with a handkerchief and said emotionally, "Young master." Sylvia tilted her head slightly and smiled at the corner of her mouth. She looked at Leon's tall figure and thought to herself, the frail child he once was has now had his coming-of-age ceremony. I once feared this day would never come for him. Time really does fly. At the same time, Rixel happily walked over to the two. "Good morning, brother." He smiled upon seeing him and asked Rixel, "Have you been waiting for me?" The boy looked at him kindly and nodded once, yes. Then Rixel raised an eyebrow and declared boldly, "From now on I will escort you." The sound of the door opening reverberated through the space, accompanied by his gentle voice, "Because today." Inside the room the atmosphere buzzed with the party. Rixel now said sternly, "You're the star of the party, brother." In the elegant room, melodious music flowed from the symphony orchestra. A young lady glanced around and exclaimed in surprise, "The decorations are so grand, truly the Asteria family style." The middle-aged man beside her couldn't help but laugh. "This is even more lavish than a royal banquet." Another man holding a glass of wine turned and said, "I heard rumors that Marquis Patrick and his eldest nephew were at odds, but it turns out that was just nonsense." The man with the mustache shrugged calmly, "We'll see about that." Amid the noisy, bustling space, a loud announcement rang out, "Marquis Asteria and the young masters have arrived." Upon hearing this, everyone immediately turned their heads toward the sound. Murmurs and chatter rose without end. There's the Marquis, still as imposing as ever, with young Rixel at his side. And following the two was Leon, a faint smile on his lips. Today's main figure, young Master Leon. He wore an elegant outfit and stepped forward to the applause of the guests. A woman, seeing Leon, sneered softly, "He doesn't look as dignified as I imagined. He seems outshone by Heir Rixel." The man beside her chimed in, "I heard he's a bit odd too." Suddenly Patrick frowned and called to Leon. Hearing this, he answered cheerfully, "Yes, sir." Then the Marquis looked toward the assembled nobles and admonished sternly, "Listen carefully. Do not associate with those people over there. They are not the sort your nephew should get involved." Leon, surprised, asked immediately, "Are you worrying about me?" Patrick sighed, frowned, and reminded him, "Remember, this is a public event. You'll be giving the opening remarks soon, so compose yourself." Seeing the serious face beside him, he couldn't help laughing out loud. "Don't worry, I won't disgrace the Asteria heir." At the same time, he thought happily, he really does care in his own way. Leon adjusted his collar and thought casually, "I'm not going to entertain flatterers. My only goal is to." Then he bowed politely and introduced himself gently. "Hello everyone, I'm Leon Asteria. Today I officially come of age." The thought continued, to leave a good impression of the family in everyone's eyes. Leon spoke confidently without embarrassment. "I sincerely thank you all for attending, especially the heirs who will lead this country in the future. Today Rixel froze the moment he saw this. He watched his older brother and wondered in amazement. Brother, has he always been this reliable? Just then a young lady whispered, "Leon looks so attractive today." The girl next to her, sweating and hesitating, said, "So I'm not the only one who thinks so. It's hard to describe. He looks ordinary, but somehow." The maiden in the yellow dress raised an eyebrow. "Isn't there something very special about his outfit?" She realized at once. "Yes, look closely and you can see a refined, minimalist beauty." The other girl affirmed confidently, "It's not just the clothes, they make the wearer stand out too." She agreed without hesitation. "Exactly, truly befitting the Empire's most noble family." The maiden blushed and curiously asked who the designer was. Another girl glanced over and replied, "I heard none of the tailors we know were accepted for this commission." After observing a while, Patrick folded his arms and remarked, "The boy knows how to use his head." Rixel beside him heard this and turned in surprise. Then he, cheeks flushed, stammered, "Brother, he planned this far ahead." The Marquis thought a moment and smiled slightly. "I'm not sure, but he's always quick-witted, just like someone I know." Rixel still seemed puzzled when Leon's gentle voice rang out, "Please, enjoy yourselves and party until tomorrow, relax and have a good time. Once again, thank you all for coming from afar. I'll take my leave now." With a bright smile, he cheerfully said, I wish everyone a wonderful celebration. Applause rang crisply throughout the room. When Rixel saw Leon step down from the stage, he exclaimed with delight, "Brother, you're amazing." He looked at him with admiration and asked, "You're so busy, how did you find time to prepare such a great speech? Did you secretly practice?" Leon blushed and laughed. "No, I just spoke simply, but thanks for the compliment," he thought smugly. Years of office work experience in Korea really paid off. At the same time, Patrick stepped forward and remarked with satisfaction, "This family's blood really shows through. Even without mana or an aura, he still carries such an imposing demeanor." Then he smiled faintly in praise. "Well done," Leon replied happily. "Thank you, grandfather." Then Patrick gently suggested, "Very well, then we should go and enjoy the banquet." On the table, covered with a red cloth, the dishes looked extremely appetizing, accompanied by the violin's melodious strains from the ensemble. The red wine gently swirled in the glass, and a voice asked, "So, Leon?" Then he looked at Leon with curiosity. "Have you decided what you'll bring to the labyrinth ceremony?" He raised the glass to his lips and took a small sip as Patrick's thoughts surfaced. "They say what you receive in the labyrinth depends on the item you bring. Whoever brings a spellbook gains new magical knowledge, while whoever brings a staff receives a new offensive spell. For an ordinary mage, the result is fairly predictable, but since you're not a mage, it's a complete unknown. In that case," Leon fidgeted with the wineglass and hesitantly spoke, "I." Then with a smile he confidently declared, "I'll probably bring the potion I made myself." As soon as he said that, he felt frustrated. "I don't have magical talent, and I don't really have any decent gear right now. Even this 4-star outfit was made by Uncle Andrew. I only added the tie, so I'll just bring the best thing I crafted with my own hands." Patrick fell silent, thought for a moment, and couldn't help but sigh. That's right, thinking that way is good. After all, the labyrinth will grant knowledge suited to your current abilities. And there's one more thing I want to ask. Are you interested in politics or the role of head of the family? Leon didn't hesitate and answered decisively, "No, sir." That left Patrick a bit taken aback, answering so quickly. Sensing the boy hadn't fully absorbed the idea, Leon hurriedly stated his position as if burned. "I'm certain, not at all. That will never happen, sir. Besides, I'm convinced Rixel will be the next head of the family." Meanwhile, Rixel, overwhelmed with emotion as he looked at his brother. Patrick cleared his throat and addressed his younger nephew. "If that's the case, Rixel, can you cherish your brother as you would your own life?" The boy quickly placed his hand on his chest to make a solemn vow. "Yes, I swear on the family's honor and with my own mana." Expecting a lengthy ceremonial discussion to follow, but instead the Marquis simply drank to clear his throat, nodded and murmured, "Then it's settled." Patrick paid no mind to the puzzled looks from his two nephews and happily celebrated inwardly. "I didn't expect the succession worry I feared most would be resolved so quick. It makes me want to go tell the whole world about it. At present, the greatest threats to Asteria are the royal family and the Sword Saint clan." That idle thought unintentionally annoyed Patrick, and he cast his gaze into the distance, where two young heirs sat dining and chatting together. "Those old royal elders are wringing their brains over succession disputes, so we don't need to worry about them for now." Just when it seemed matters would end there, Patrick continued and looked toward a distant woman. "The real issue lies with the Bidentes clan. Their bloody purge under the guise of a succession ritual only concluded not long ago. It said a young woman bore all that bloodshed to lift the clan back up. Who knows what savage age we're living in that allows such things to happen, but because they're busy with internal affairs, it's an advantage for us. However, since they're very sensitive right now, it's best to avoid confrontation if possible." Patrick realized he'd been silent too long, cleared his throat, and began, "All right, Leon, I understand your thinking. Then live the life you want as a member of the Asteria family." He squinted, smiled politely, and asked, "And if you cause trouble, what will I do?" The Marquis replied lightly, "Go ahead and try if you wish, however." The other's deliberate trailing off left Leon puzzled. However, what? Patrick suddenly revealed a rough streak. "If you get hurt, I won't let it slide." The remark made him break into a sweat. "I'll probably be taken out before I die from causing trouble." Leon quickly bowed low to show his resolve. "I'll live quietly and peacefully and take good care of myself, sir." Patrick finally heard what he wanted and nodded happily. "Good, let's finish our meal." The banquet continued for quite some time, until Leon had a moment to sip his wine alone, though his eyes remained fixed on where everyone had gathered. Thanks to the earlier conversation, he was fortunate to be positioned at the edge of the banquet and have time to drift into thought. Both the Marquis and Rixel were trying too hard. Dealing with those old nobles is truly tiring and troublesome. He slowly handed the half-drunk glass back to the waiter while his mind kept working. "But I also have my own tasks to attend to." Alex, for some reason, took the initiative to greet him. "Hello, Leon, I've been curious this whole time. Could you tell me who designed that beautiful outfit?" The question immediately triggered Leon's business instincts. This is my first customer. Despite the commotion inside, he remained polite, following the etiquette lessons he'd learned before. Of course, certainly. No sooner had Leon said that than a host of other potential clients appeared, speaking up lively. Leon, me too, me as well. Please share with me. While he was still dazed and unsure what was happening, even more people gathered than he'd expected. Is this the power of a 4-star outfit effect? Leon's mouth moved on its own to draw the noble's attention. Everyone's curious about who made this garment, right? However, I'm a little hesitant. The unscripted answer naturally puzzled Alex and the others. What did you say? Leon suddenly put on an awkward look as he launched into an irresistibly captivating story. This designer happens to be an illegitimate child of a noble family, and because he also sells to commoners, he was shunned by the aristocracy. As expected, the nobles bit the bait almost immediately without question. Oh my, in this day and age, they still discriminate against tailors for that. The faction around the first prince tends to be pretty strict about such things. He froze for a few seconds when he heard the royal family mentioned in the murmurings. Wait, come to think of it, the second prince is also an illegitimate child. Perhaps Uncle Andrew became a victim of public opinion in the covert struggle between the two princes. He quickly regained his composure and spoke in a friendly, businesslike tone. Anyway, because of that I can introduce him to you, but if that makes anyone uncomfortable. Before Leon finished the sentence, the nobles couldn't help but laugh and chatter. Not at all. Please tell us. We only care about the outfit itself. With that firm confirmation, he gave a confident smile and introduced the mysterious man. Since you're so enthusiastic, it would be rude to hide it. Let me introduce him. The tailor who made this suit is Andrew. His shop is located in the southern territory of our family. Alex, who had been waiting to hear the tailor's name, gaped in admiration. I suspected it, so he really exists. I kept wondering where he disappeared to. Turns out he's under House Asteria's protection. Before anyone could say more, Leon dropped a bombshell in the middle of the banquet. You'd better hurry if you want to book him. As far as I know, there are only about 3 slots left. The nobles were stunned by the news, only 3 slots. As he was about to continue sharing his thoughts, Clarentia unexpectedly made her presence known. Wait a moment. She completely ignored everyone avoiding her and gently asked Leon, that tailor, does he really accept commissions for any kind of garment? While those around were still busy discussing, what would she order? Probably a gorgeous dress. He maintained the friendly demeanor of a service professional and replied, of course, Madame Clarentia by den. While Leon's mind buzzed with calculations, an order from the Sword Saint clan, he quickly cut to the chase. If you don't mind, may I ask what type of outfits you would like? Clarentia, having anticipated the question, answered immediately without hesitation. I intend to order training clothes and comfortable everyday wear. But what she said next made everyone's skin crawl. My old outfits are all torn. I can't wear them anymore. A cold aura emanated from Clarentia that terrified the nobles into scattering at once. Oh, my back suddenly hurts. Oh my God, my head. I forgot to turn off the stove at home. Oh dear, I have an urgent matter and must leave. I'll definitely book next time. Soon the great hall was left with only Clarentia and Leon, which made him a bit flustered. They're all gone. Well then. Since it's rumored she survived that bloody purge, it's understandable people fear her. But a customer is still a customer. No need to worry about those rumors. That rational line of thought calmed Leon. He switched into salesman mode and said, there are quite a few garments, so it may take a bit longer than expected. Is that all right? Clarentia didn't hesitate and agreed at once. That's not a problem. Do I need to pay a deposit? Leon didn't need a moment to think and gave a prompt answer. We'll arrange that after the banquet ends. The instant Clarentia left, Leon couldn't help but exhale in relief. That ended more simply than expected. Now next up is. He quickly turned to those who had fled earlier. The remaining slots were taken in an instant. Does anyone want to add their name to the waiting list? Just like that, he lured a string of potential clients into signing up for tailoring, resulting in his order book becoming nearly as thick as a regular note. Time passed by without him noticing, as he looked at his ledger grinning from ear to ear. Nice. Uncle Andrew will be pleased with this many orders, won't he? Suddenly Sylvia appeared and quietly announced, Young master, the head has announced the trial is ready. Leon nodded without thinking. Yes, I'm coming at once. A moment later, Leon stood dazed before the door to Patrick's study. Before he could open it, Thuris suddenly appeared and spoke to Leon. So you're truly the Asteria heir famed for magic. You don't look worried at all. The 3 parts concern, 7 parts sarcasm tone irritated him. This guy clearly knows I'm not versed in magic, but Leon still had to feign friendliness in response. Only Rixel cut in to save him before he could finish speaking, of course. Why would my brother be worried? The thought of him confronting an opponent backed by greater support made Leon break into a sweat. This Rixel of mine looks exactly like father in moments like this, completely different from how he treats me. And the first prince is exactly the kind of person Rixel will loathe. He has real ability, but is essentially a debauched pleasure seeker. Thuris didn't want to lose face and retreated at once. I will return to my seat. After the two princes left, Rixel anxiously spoke to his brother. Brother, the vial you mentioned is in here. Come back safe. Leon quickly nodded enthusiastically in response, completely different from his earlier awkwardness. Thanks, kid. He slung the bag over his shoulder and let a wave of nostalgia wash over him. This place brings back so many memories. I used to come here diligently when I was a child. For someone like me who couldn't awaken any talent, this place was once a sanctuary and refuge. They say the first housemaster left a treasure here after the war with the demon clan ended. But what could that item be, if even they call it a treasure? Then it must be extremely valuable. Even in the game, Sylvia suddenly offered a sharp knife to Leon, young master. You know its use well, so he simply said thank you gently. Then he quickly made a small cut on his finger, letting his blood drip straight to the floor. The formation beneath Leon was activated at once, causing the vast manor to tremble continuously, making Thuris, who had just come down to the hall, unable to hide his surprise, who knew simply opening the door could cause such a shock. Meanwhile, unaware of the guest's concern, Leon focused all his attention on the strands of spirit force reaching out there. They quickly wrapped tightly around his waist, and suddenly pulled Leon into the space behind that door, regardless of how panicked the others were. The Asteria family's labyrinth library, depending on the maze's will, it can be passed without any trials, however. If an entrant harbors greed and deliberately sabotages it, it will instantly become an inescapable dungeon. Yet its terrible power can trigger an earthquake of significant magnitude, making the entire manor shake as if about to collapse, which sent the two princes and the others into a panic. What's happening? Everyone be careful. At the same time, Leon, who had opened the library, struggled to open his eyes and look into the light before him after being pulled inside. Something's wrong. The library doesn't usually open like this. What on earth is happening? The moment he saw what was before him, he screamed in shock. Because Leon realized he was being pulled into some strange, dark void within the library. Seeing the panic on Patrick's and Rixel's faces tightened his chest, and he tried not to make a sound. Sir, Rixel, me, what's happening? Time passed without his knowing. Leon's whole body drifted in a strange, mystical space. The system there abruptly issued a long notification, whether he had regained consciousness or not. You have achieved the book maze accomplishment. You are granted permission to read all books in the library. Intelligence increased by 10, mana permanently increased by 10, a high-purity mana circle has formed. Back at the banquet, the continuous trembling of the space made everyone scream in fear. The flickering candles now swung chaotically back and forth. Wine glasses began to fall uncontrollably to the floor. Everyone scrambled to flee for their lives. Help me, where's the marquis? Suddenly, the ornate chandelier above swung violently, causing the chain between it and the ceiling to snap. The massive chandelier then plummeted downward. Alex was the only one who noticed and froze. The chandelier is falling. Fortunately, before it could strike her, Patrick's spell quickly deflected it. Alex, having escaped death, regained her composure and muttered, "We're alive." Dubert couldn't help shouting too, "This is the Marquis's protective energy. He's protecting us." The chaotic situation in the vast Asteria Manor was stabilized again within a short time. At the same time, Patrick stood on the upper floor, directing his mana across the area. He ordered anxiously, "Rixen, hurry to the banquet hall and guide everyone out. I've already set up several protective barriers." The man quickly bowed in acknowledgement. "Yes, master." Rixel waited until people had left, then panicked as he blurted out, "Sir, what on earth happened?" Patrick looked at the devastated space around him and couldn't help sighing. "The library has gone out of control. I told Rixen to evacuate the guests first." "What about the princes?" After the recent incident, Thuris shed his playful manner and answered seriously, "They're safe." Rixel deployed protective spells for them. Heaving a sigh of relief at that answer, Patrick murmured, "Thank goodness, everyone is unharmed." "Rixel, send healers to the injured, and prepare lodging for the remaining guests. I will guard the labyrinth entrance. I entrust all handling of this situation to you." Suddenly given such a heavy responsibility, Rixel immediately looked alarmed. "Yes, that's too dangerous, master. I'll stay as well." But Patrick refused without hesitation. "No. As the next heir of the family, you must fulfill your duties." Thuris, seeming to sense the Asteria family's tension, flustered as he spoke, "Marquis, it's dangerous. We don't even know the labyrinth's current state." Patrick suddenly turned back to his usual stern demeanor and replied, "You expect me to risk my life over these minor chaotic matters? Or have I been unaware all along of how deeply our honored guests care for me?" "Rixel, go now." His tone brooked no objection. leaving the boy frozen. As the tension eased, the two princes finally spoke cautiously. Yes, Leon should be safe, come on, I'll lend a hand too. Rixel paid no heed to them and only worried inwardly. Brother. The three young men quickly left the dangerous upper floor, leaving Patrick alone with many concerns as he stared toward the library door. The labyrinth's state is fluctuating abnormally, if Rixel gets pulled into this as well. Suddenly, a familiar melodious voice rang out, staying here in this emergency. Patrick, seeing Clarentia's face, blurted, Lady of the Bidenti's house, why are you staying instead of leaving? She ignored the question and leisurely changed the subject. It seems you are certain he's still alive, huh? As if she already knew the outcome. Patrick said nothing, but his contemplative expression answered Clarentia in silence. So she spoke calmly, startling him, I'll help. Patrick frowned, puzzled, why? It would benefit your house more if you didn't help us. Clarentia paused for a few seconds before giving a reasonably practical answer. Well, I just ordered a few outfits from that young man. I don't want my plans ruined. Then I'll wait nearby. As Clarentia left, Sylvia appeared right behind Patrick. She gently remarked that child's acuity is far from ordinary, which made him nod despite himself indeed. Sylvia set up a barrier around the labyrinth. The order was given. How could she not comply? Yes. While Sylvia busied herself channeling mana to form a magical fence, Patrick cleared his throat and instructed her. This must not be allowed to leak out. From now on, we focus on restoring the area outside the lab. That way, at least Leon will have a way out. Meanwhile, unaware of the chaos outside, Leon was still lying there calmly, enjoying the fresh air around him. The picturesque natural scene made him so happy he hummed a few tunes he'd composed. The birdsong blending with the soft breeze made Leon unable to stop smiling. Suddenly, he accidentally saw the system's familiar notification. You have achieved book maze, he had to mutter to himself. This is giving me a headache. Seeing this achievement means I've cleared the maze. But I don't understand what the hell I did to clear it. Leon sat up, irritated, to calm his mind, and tried to recall what he'd seen in the game. This is the reward area. Since the maze has been cleared, this place should be safe. So how do I claim the reward? In the game, you just click it. Being put on the defensive like this frustrated Leon immensely. So Leon must have entered and exited here, initially without obstacles. The only thing that changed since then might be my mana amount, right? No, that's unlikely, because it only increased by a little over 10 points. If it were just mana, then my relatives would treat the maze's destination like their living room. Besides, if anyone could enter so easily, Grandpa wouldn't have hidden the treasure here. Or maybe it's related to the fact that I'm inhabiting this body. This new idea gave Leon some hope for a fresh line of reasoning for his vague plan. After all, Grandpa once said the first housemaster hid a treasure here 500 years ago, after the war with the demon tribe and the hero. That hero suddenly disappeared without a trace after the war ended. As Leon thought that, he suddenly froze. This maze was solved the moment I stepped in. Unlike the times I used to visit the library, this is my first time here since transmigrating into this body. What if the maze recognized me not as Leon Asteria, but as someone else? It sounds a bit far-fetched, but the war with the demon tribe is the game's setting. The player becomes the hero, fights the demon tribe, and saves the world. If the treasure the first housemaster hid happened to belong to that hero, then wait, wouldn't that be an item of my character? Leon sat on the grass, stroking his chin and looking around. If the hero's treasure hidden here was once an item I owned, the system might have marked it as an old item to reclaim. Then he slowly stood up and said firmly, anyway, I can't stay here forever. With only one ring of mana, I can't even touch foreign spells, so the only way is to use brute force to break this place. Next, Leon took a step forward. There must be a way through, even if my level is low, but his stepping foot suddenly halted. It seemed he had noticed something. Then Leon looked down at the flowers growing beneath his feet. Now that he thought about it, these white flowers. Information about the rare pure white flower appeared. This species doesn't grow with other species, and is often used as an ornamental plant. After reading that, he raised an eyebrow and said, upon closer inspection, they are planted in patterns. It seemed the entire map followed a certain order. Beside the pure white flowers were patches of ordinary purple grass, which also grew separately rather than mixed with other species. Leon scanned the flower field and analyzed thoughtfully. Each area contained only one plant species, but if everything were mixed like this, that means. He folded his arms and confidently inferred, this area is divided into sections, and the vegetation is artificially arranged. There must be a section planted out of order that holds the key to escape, and the most unusual place is. The moment he saw what was ahead, Leon gaped in astonishment. Next, he grinned smugly. So the place where plants that shouldn't grow together cluster is right here. Then Leon gently closed his eyes. A strong stream of blue energy flowed around him, and he stood there in thought. telling himself to close his eyes and listen to his heartbeat, let his consciousness sink into the body and flow with that rhythm. A magic circle appeared on his chest, and after feeling it, Leon smiled inwardly with delight. This is a mana circle, how interesting. At that moment, the system announced successful localization of the mana circle. Now he can view its data. Leon closed his eyes again and told himself, okay, Leon, focus, try channeling mana into your eyes. A powerful surge of energy rose. He suddenly opened his eyes wide. The Witch Eye support skill activated, duration over 10 minutes. When Leon saw red markers appear on the flower field, he was startled. That was close to ruin. Spots with all 3 plant types were almost all traps. Then he shifted his gaze to another flower area. Either there were no strands of mana, or that spot was designed to trigger magic if touched incorrectly, not here. After scanning around, Leon smiled happily. Need to go a little farther. The scene of him walking across the flower field unfolded, with faint currents of blue power in the air. Leon was moving forward when he suddenly stopped. At that moment, the system announced the Witch Eye skill had been enhanced, and the area's hidden name revealed. He looked toward the source where the illusionary mana threads were emanating and brightened with joy. Found it. Leon knelt before the energy source and hesitated, wondering if he should dig down and check. Next, he happily opened the system to access the store. If so, I need something to remove these mana threads. Let's see which shilling shop. Because Leon's assets exceeded 100,000 shilling, all items were unlocked. His current membership rank is bronze. Leon exclaimed in surprise. Everything unlocked, and even a new page appeared. He swiped the system screen and raised an eyebrow. Survival. Since this is what I need most right now, I'll check this category first. Leon looked at the item and cried out, no, wait. The wear reduces success rate. Success chance 20%, remaining uses 1. After reading through, he put his hands on his hips angrily. What kind of items are these? Is this a scam? Not to mention the price. I can't even use most of these. Isn't this outrageous? At the same time, the system suggested applying filters. Leon couldn't hide his delight. Great, that function actually exists. Then he excitedly requested, show me items under 120,000 shilling. Sort from cheap to expensive. Include discounted items, please. The system immediately loaded the information. A sound chimed. Leon was pleased the system worked. Good. This makes filtering easier. But when he saw the results on screen, his expression showed disappointment. Most of these won't help right now. Then he examined 2 products, the magic detector and a sharp pair of shears, and hesitated in analysis. These 2 seem the best choices. The magic detector is tempting, but too expensive. The shears are certainly the more practical choice now. With my current skill, I couldn't dispel the illusion magic even with a detector. Then Leon gritted his teeth, made the decision, and reached out to buy. I'll buy this. At that moment, the system announced the sharp shears had been permanently bound to him. He looked at the item and raised a brow with a wry smile. I saved shilling, since arriving here only for it to vanish in an instant. At least I like the permanent binding. Hopefully it solves the problem. Then Leon said excitedly, now let's dig up the source of those mana threads. He took out a shovel and declared smugly, the hard work of crafting and gathering every day has finally paid off. Now digging is as easy as pie. Leon immediately set to work, his hands repeatedly driving the shovel into the ground. At the same time, the system announced which I would last 1 more minute. He was startled and exclaimed, already that long? Wait. Just then the shovel struck something hard with a loud, piercing sound. Leon widened his eyes in surprise. There it is. He couldn't hide his excitement and dug with both hands. Hurry up. Leon grasped the item buried in the earth that was emitting threads of energy. He lifted the treasure chest and, delighted, remarked it looked exactly like the reward chests in the game. The system began a 10-second countdown. Leon hurriedly cut the thread with the shears and replied, got it, got it. As the countdown reached the 7th second, his sharp shears severed the thread. The enhanced Witch Eye skill ended. He looked at the chest glowing with golden light with eager eyes. It's worked. The system then asked if Leon wanted to claim the reward. Leon answered without hesitation, of course. The item is now bound to me and stored in the inventory. It cannot be identified here. He looked at the light and smiled happily. Rebinding proves it's truly my item. Next, Leon wondered puzzled, but what exactly is it that can't be identified here? At the same time, the system notified that because a related item had been collected, Leon would be placed into story mode. This is an unavoidable memory. Leon broke out in a nervous sweat upon hearing this. He gaped in disbelief and asked, wait, what is this? What is story mode? What's happening? Before him was an image of a door with ornate patterns. Patrick and Rixel stood before the door. The atmosphere seemed tense. The Marquis squinted and asked in a low voice, Rixel, I assume the fallout from public opinion has been handled satisfactorily. You replied honestly, yes, my lord. We blamed the chaos on an earthquake. and there are currently no signs of other incidents. Rixel then broke into a sweat and avoided his gaze. I've also secured cooperation commitments from the two princes on this matter. The leader of the Sword Saint Bidenti's clan has promised to ensure the rumor won't spread. Patrick nodded and remarked, good. His thought was that this would keep the rumor from spreading among the royal family and nobility. Who would have thought the first prince's incompetence would be useful now? Then he asked in a low voice, what about the temple and the underworld? Yu, sweating, replied, we acted in both places before the information leaked. At least your brother's whereabouts remain unknown. Patrick frowned at that. Well done. He affirmed inwardly that no matter what happens, information must absolutely not be revealed to those two places. The temple and the underworld. On one side is an archbishop, obsessed with anything related to the hero, and the underworld was founded by a comrade of the hero, now grown into a major power. His thoughts occurred at once. Unlike others, those two places have enough intelligence to uncover the core truth. If we're not careful, they could recognize Leon's possession of a special power. And in fact, Leon is indeed connected to the hero. The first piece of evidence is the hero's potion bottle. The second piece is the events happening now. Trouble began the moment Leon entered the maze, the place that worships the hero's treasure. There is certainly something Leon himself doesn't know about. Until we find out what it is, the information must be kept completely secret. Suddenly, a loud noise made Patrick and Rixel startle, and both look in one direction. The ground around them shook violently. At that moment, someone cried out in panic, the maze is moving. Patrick immediately raised an eyebrow to signal. Everyone prepare to respond. He wore a guarded expression and said hesitantly, I sense a great power releasing from within. Rixel stared at the light appearing on the door and said in alarm, something is crawling out. Suddenly something flew out and struck Patrick in the forehead, leaving him stunned. After being hit, Patrick struggled to suppress his anger until his whole body trembled, while Rixel held the object in hand in disbelief. This is. He inspected what had shot out and exclaimed in surprise, a letter. After glancing at the handwriting on the paper, Rixel confirmed firmly, though it looks hastily written, this is definitely my brother's handwriting. There's no blood or signs of damage. Patrick, curious and sweating, asked, what does it say? He looked pale as he looked up. Yes. At that moment, the system notified that Leon had successfully accessed the story mode. After fainting for a while, he gradually came to. Then Leon propped himself up and held his head. My head hurts. Have I entered story mode? Before him was a short story scene of a character. Leon guessed from the title that this seemed to be someone's memory. A man whose face couldn't be seen held out a small chest with a smile and said, I don't need it anymore, Patrick, handle this. When Leon heard the familiar name, he was startled to realize, Patrick, this is the memory of the day my grandfather received the item from the hero. Voices in the memory took turns speaking. Not yet, we haven't finished everything. Why now? Keep it for a necessary day. Leon was sweating profusely and clutching his head in panic. Damn it. Such important information and I can't hear it clearly. Why is the perspective like this? I should have been more careful when creating my character. I used random mode, so now I don't even remember what it was. Patrick accepted the chest and said solemnly, understood. I will take responsibility for safekeeping. At that moment, the system announced he had observed a stored memory, and the story mode ended. He stared in confusion and blurted, what? It's over already. Then Leon broke out in a cold sweat, frowning and complaining. I thought I'd see something really important, but in the end I got no useful information at all. He looked at the small chest in his hands and murmured, judging by the timing, this was probably during the war with the demon tribe. It seems that person left it to my grandfather for a day of need. Inside the chest were glittering pieces of jewelry. Leon felt suspicious when he saw the items. This set of accessories hides skill. Next, Leon put the bracelet on and raised an eyebrow. Actually, in the game, this item isn't that rare. Only people who want to hide their power use it. But in practice, it's a support item for farming extra experience. I even used to equip one on every character to gain extra experience points. In any case, he didn't know which character on his account it was tied to, but they probably left it because they didn't need it. Moreover, it appeared just when I needed to conceal my mana, so I should be grateful. Then he closed his eyes slightly. At the same time, the system asked if he wanted to check information about the mana circle. He answered without hesitation, yes. After analysis, the system immediately reported that the current surplus mana was extremely low. Leon was startled and wondered, strange, can my first circle really hold that much mana? An image appeared of a man clasping his hands to concentrate mana, and he thought to himself, everyone has to train and meditate day and night to expand their mana reservoir before they can form a second or third circle. Seeing this scene, Leon couldn't help but be curious. Why is my first circle so large? A worried, slightly bewildered expression on his face. But Leon casually brushed those doubts aside. Whatever's useful is fine. Next, he stood up slowly. Anyway, thanks to this, my secret won't be exposed. Even if it's an event item, it's still treated as a treasure here. Big profit. Looks like I'll have an unforgettable coming-of-age ceremony. Suddenly, Leon looked up, sweating, thinking, now the problem is. He glanced around and forced a wry smile to himself. I'm still stuck in the maze. In the quiet space, Leon's voice rang out. First, I have to move and find a way out. At the same time, his foot accidentally kicked a book on the ground. At that moment, the system warned access was denied. He couldn't access without permission from the library owner. Then it announced he was the owner here. He stared in surprise and blurted, I've become the owner. Leon looked a bit anxious, frowning and muttering, probably because I completed the maze. This wasn't my plan. A line of text appeared on the screen. The maze entrance is damaged and undergoing automatic repairs. The system asked if he wanted to teleport to the endpoint. Reading it, he couldn't help but be startled. What? The furnishings are ruined, and now the entrance is broken too, if left like this. Then Leon broke into a sweat, pale, saying he'll definitely scold me. I don't want to be scolded. What should I do? Patrick's angry face appeared along with an enraged voice. You idiot. I told you to do as you please. Who knew you'd cause this disaster? Suddenly he raised an eyebrow and wondered, wait, if I'm the owner, can I repair it? The system then suggested restoring the maze. If so, bound items would return to their original positions. Leon read and immediately refused. That would make the things I just took disappear, and all the books accumulated while building the maze would be lost, so no. Next he asked curiously, is there another way? The system quickly offered another suggestion. Manually adjust the maze to repair it. Repair resources for the entrance will be delivered, and it will take time to complete. Leon read and nodded, muttering it seems like editing a save file. The last time I added books to the maze was a week ago. Except for the treasures I'm holding, it'll be restored to the state from a week ago. Then he asked eagerly, how long will it take? The system replied it would take 672 hours, and he himself could not leave during that time. Leon, suspicious, stammered, how many hours? The number 672 was on the screen, and he cried out in shock, so that means a month. Then he broke into a sweat again and hesitantly asked, can I move around inside the maze during that time? The system informed him he could freely move inside the library. Leon didn't stop and asked, during repairs, is there a way to send messages out? The system said there's a book chute currently unused. Leon perked up. Perfect. First I'll send a note to grandfather and Rixel so they won't worry. Then he wiped sweat and nodded. Okay, Leon said sternly, start the repairs. The system immediately began the repair work. Books were lifted to float in midair by a source of energy. Even the ladder and wooden chairs that had been toppled were moving. The space inside the library seemed to be shifting. The system also announced 671 hours and 59 minutes remaining to complete the maze restoration. Leon watched the scene, hands on his hips in satisfaction. Okay, so can you take me to the end of the maze? A spatial gate immediately appeared before him. He looked on in amazement and remarked, what a convenient feature. Then Leon said calmly, from now on I just need to survive for 1 month. To do that, suddenly Leon looked surprised as if he'd seen something. He looked toward the clear pond and exclaimed in surprise, maybe that's it, a pond. Leon's reflection on the water trembled slightly. He stepped closer to the edge of the pond, marveling, I didn't expect such a large lake inside the maze. Luckily it doesn't seem dangerous. Just as Leon was relaxing, the system immediately displayed a warning. The pond contains bilaterally symmetrical aquatic creatures and 10-legged crustaceans. Leon frowned and suggested, can you explain that more simply? The system obliged and began to explain. There are many edible fish and crustaceans. If you try fishing, you can catch types ranging from common to high-grade to rare. He didn't hesitate and asked, how many rare fish are there? The system answered only one. At the same time, the system announced the pond's fishing function had been unlocked thanks to owner privileges. Leon startled and said, I could fish, but I don't have a rod. Is there one? The fishing float bobbed on the clear water, accompanied by his humming. Leon sat at the pond's edge holding the rod and cheerfully thought, lucky there's fishing gear in the shilling shop, even though I spent quite a bit. I figured if there was no other option I'd eat the bait, but I've already caught a few fish. He whistled calmly and laughed with excitement. Looks like I won't starve. Suddenly the float jerked violently, making Leon jump and cry out. He was sweating slightly, firmly declaring, this one's totally different from the ones I caught earlier. The fishing line was pulled taut. Leon watched in amazement and admired. This one's really strong. Could it be a big fish? But he gripped the rod with both hands and tried to calm himself. Slowly now, don't rush. The head of a purple fish broke the surface. Leon grunted, come on. Then he yanked the rod hard and shouted with excitement, got it. At that moment the system notified he'd caught a maze carp. Simultaneously the system displayed a message. You have caught a maze carp. An introduction appeared. No pin bones, no muddy smell, excellent flavor. The maize carp before him made him exclaim with pleasure, "It's really big." Afterwards, Leon looked at his sturdy hands, serene and satisfied. The tugging feeling was real. No wonder everyone likes fishing. His newly enlightened expression prompted the system to happily announce, "You have awakened a new talent. Fishing, proficiency reached level 1. Then Leon put the maize carp into his basket, excitedly said, "Good, tonight's dinner will be this carp. A nutritious carp is exactly what this weak body needs." Having said that, he stood and carried it across a plot filled with flowers and green grass, wondering, should I set up a place to cook first? Then the necessary items gradually appeared: table and chairs, a pan, and other household utensils. Leon quickly placed the maize carp on the table, while his hands and eyes consulted the system screen to select tools. "I stored it away earlier because I feared Rixel catching a cold in the woods, but now it seems usable for something else. I'll also bring out the alchemy kit." Leon hesitated as he scrolled the screen, then exclaimed in surprise, "Huh, what's this?" The system quickly explained it's a magic flint that makes fire starting easy. Relieved, he remembered it was a bonus gift. "Thanks to this, I can start a fire easily." Saying that, Leon tapped to select it, and the stone that appeared emitted a small flame. Standing before the blazing flame, hands on his hips, he bent slightly in wonder. With fire, the space instantly feels much more comfortable. It strangely brings me a sense of security. After speaking, Leon turned back to the table. He adjusted his sleeves and told himself, all right, now to prepare the carp. He carefully traced graceful cuts along the fish's body with the knife, murmuring, "Eating outdoors is best when roasted primitive." Leon gently removed the maize carp's internal organs. At the same time, the system's description box appeared. "The organs are inedible, but can be used for alchemy." Seeing that, he looked both excited and skeptical. Usable for alchemy. Saying so, Leon decisively picked up the organs and thought, then I should store this in the alchemy vial. When finished, he wiped his hands and beamed at the boiling vial beside him, wondering, is it because it's an alchemy ingredient? As soon as I put it in, it heated up automatically, handy. While preparing, Leon imagined delicious dishes and sighed in delight. Skewers really are magic. It feels like anything stuck on a skewer tastes better, or is it just me? Looking at the fresh skewered food on the table, Leon wondered, fish skewers should be skewered head down. With the head down, the fat will drip away. As the maize carp neared being eaten, he daydreamed. The sweet juices are retained inside, making the fish crispy outside and juicy within. Based on that, Leon immediately skewered the fish and vegetable pieces. He cried out excitedly, "Delicious! The primitive roasted carp is done." Suddenly he stood up, glanced at the pile of neatly arranged items by the tree and hesitated, while waiting for the fish to cook. Should I prepare a sleeping spot? No sooner thought than done. Leon quickly gathered small stones, thinking to himself, it's a bit clanky, but he enthusiastically enjoyed laying things out and encouraged himself. When will I ever get an experience like this again? To enjoy romance, you have to put in some effort. When finished, Leon looked at the spot he had arranged with pleasure and exclaimed, not bad at all. Just then the aroma spread everywhere, and he immediately turned, sighing in delight, smells so right. Leon sat peacefully in his own chair. His eyes shone brightly as he gazed at the skewered fish in his hands. Move. At that moment, the system reminded him, roasted maize carp provides a low chance of satiety. But what caught Leon's attention was the last line. Notice, cannot be taken out of the maize. He widened his eyes and muttered, this is the first time I've seen a warning like this, so these are just maize delicacy. But he shrugged it off and brought the fragrant fish to his mouth to enjoy. Whatever. Bon appetit. He ate attentively while observing and praising. The outer scales must be from the fat roasting golden and crisp like fried food. The flesh revealed between the belly cuts is unbelievably tender. Finally, Leon looked at the roasted maize carp with satisfaction. Above all, the charred aroma, typical of grilled fish, really whets the appetite. Thinking that, Leon was moved, tears welling as he savored it. This flavor makes me want a bowl of hot white rice with kimchi right now. Then he obediently enjoyed the earthly taste like a contented cat. They say carp usually smells strongly of mud, but the maize carp has almost no smell and few pin bones. Incredibly tasty. I want to share this with someone. Suddenly, a notification popped up making Leon suspicious. What? My maximum mana increase. Watching the magic circle before him grow larger and larger, he could hardly believe it. This can't be. On that circle, a stream of blue light spread into beautiful colors, and he wondered, has my mana pool really increased? Just by eating it, my mana capacity increased. Seeing that, he frowned, realizing with surprise that if the mages learned of this, they'd probably sweep the pond clean. Wonder if it works on Rixel. I must let him try it later. Suddenly, Leon glanced suspiciously at the strange vial. He stood up gently, peered in, and said, let's see. A pink gem appeared inside, making Leon's eyes widen as he vaguely asked, what is this? The system announced. That's the essence of the maze carp, capable of restoring mana. Seeing that, he held the essence in his hand, observed intently and pondered. This is the first time something has appeared in my domain. Could there really be a powerful effect? But Leon froze for a moment, then composed himself and quickly grinned slyly. He immediately tapped the system screen and said, "This piques my curiosity. Besides, with everything that's happened, I haven't had time to pay attention to alchemy yet." Right, he mused. Better stash it for now. Looking at the system display, Leon was secretly pleased. I've gathered all the herbs I've found, so there's quite a lot now. In the distance, two small mushrooms were sprouting, making him exclaim, and the maze also contains countless ingredients. Mana is abundant everywhere, and no one is bothering me. Thinking that, Leon smiled lightly, scanned the surroundings, and said, on second thought, this place. He stood amid the dreamlike stretch of flowers and green trees, and then asserted confidently, isn't this a fast-level hunting ground made just for me? At the thought, Leon's face showed greed. He licked his lips and rubbed his hands schemingly. Good, very good. It seems the final part of this maze has more to exploit than I thought. In the silent sky, shooting stars quietly streaked by, creating a grand yet peaceful scene. At the same time, Leon remembered and told himself, but first I should finish this grilled carp. Dawn began to shine everywhere. This was another day of survival in Leon's maze. Each day passed with an odd piece for him. Today, Leon continued his leveling journey with maze lobster, whose sweet flavor delighted him. He caught as many as 3 today. Leon held them up, eyes glittering with excitement. Could it be I'm getting lucky? Then he brought them ashore for the system to store. Suddenly, Leon vaguely wondered, I still have leftover flour from the cookie batch. Should I cook a lobster soup? He walked barefoot peacefully, leisurely stepping on the cool green grass and feeling at one with it. I'm gradually getting used to life in this maze. As he walked, Leon reflected, every morning I collect the fish traps I set previously, then check whether the crops at the forest edge are growing well. Looking at the small tubers in the ground, Leon marveled. The sweet potatoes and bananas are growing very well. He crouched down with his shovel and said, good. Today I can take time to gather other things. Leon was enchanted by harvesting, from maize peppers, young maize mushroom, to maize crown daisy. He held the crown daisy in his hand and said excitedly, it's the first time I've seen crown daisy. It's really beautiful. Leon immediately widened his eyes in wonder. Placing it near the campsite will be perfect. The system screen showed a selling price of 300 shilling, which surprised him. What, this can be sold? Leon dazedly read the system's description and wondered. There's never been a notification like this before. Does the shilling shop also act as a trading booth? He held the bunch of crown daisy in a daze and asked, can I sell it right now? But the price on the screen dropped, leaving Leon puzzled and frowning. What, it was 300 shilling earlier. Why did it fall now? Are you haggling with me? Noticing his expression, the system immediately displayed a message. Values are calculated in real time, which made Leon snort in scorn, so that's how it is. Then he put a hand to his mouth and closed his eyes to think. It seems I can only sell 1-star items for now, and item descriptions must include price, meaning to get a fair price I'll have to negotiate actively. Suddenly, big question marks popped up on the screen. With that thought, Leon crept forward with a sly look and held the crown daisy out to persuade. Look closely. If you dry this crown daisy and brew it into tea, it's very healthy. It's not an exaggeration to say it's also an alchemy ingredient, and anyone can brew it easily. Doesn't that make it more valuable? So I think it's worth more than the current price. Hearing that, the system seemed enlightened and began to consider, reasonable, adjusting the sale price. The new value quickly appeared as 280 shilling. Surprising Leon, he frowned in annoyance. I just gave you new info, and you only raised it a bit, then took a commission. Aren't you stingy? The system calmly displayed. Commission is mandatory under shilling shop policy. Seeing that he sighed in dislike, fine, if it's policy there's no arguing. Then a gentle notification appeared. Shilling shop always listens to customer feedback. After that, the system proposed a new price of 300 shilling and offered yes or no choices, which made Leon excitedly think, so it's not entirely inflexible. If I persuade it, I can sell for a higher price. Scheming inside, he vowed that without knowledge you'd be undercut. But from now on, he could learn more and would sell everything at the highest price possible. Outwardly, Leon smiled warmly and said, agreed, I accept. As soon as he finished, Shilling Shop immediately announced the item sold for 300 shilling and paid out a pouch of money that he eagerly grabbed. Instant payment. Wonderful. Then Leon immediately asked the system, can I sell processed items? Shilling Shop quickly confirmed. Yes, however, currently there are no sellable items in your inventory. It added a warning, cannot sell items that are being forged or are defective. Hearing that, Leon put hands on his hips in affirmation and asked further, so you mean if I want to sell, I must prepare new dishes and make them properly, right? Understood. The shop faded away, and Leon relaxed in satisfaction. Today was a very productive day. He stretched comfortably and said, I've gathered enough ingredients from the forest. Time to prepare something to eat. Having said that, Leon returned and laid out all the ingredients on the table. And at that moment, the system also notified him of a spicy aromatic recipe. Leon ignored it and excitedly picked up a red ingredient, marveling. So this is peppercorns. Whole peppercorns too, wonderful. Then Leon added the ingredients he had into the pot one by one, commenting, okay, first I put the meat and peppers into boiling water, then add the cleaned lobster heads and legs to make the broth. Meanwhile, he quickly prepared other things, talking as he worked. When the flour had been mixed with water into a pliable dough, I slam it down on the table to increase elasticity, then let the dough rest a bit. Meanwhile, prepare the tender mushrooms and simmer them thoroughly. Leon enjoyed the whole process. He gently dropped the lobster bodies in and thought to himself, then add the lobster bodies, and so it becomes a seafood soup that looks unbelievably delicious. Leon stirred and sighed in anticipation. It smells amazing. Next, he pinched the dough and instructed, now that the broth has absorbed enough flavor, take the rested dough, tear it into thin pieces and drop them in. Then he gently lifted each small leaf and said excitedly, finally add a large handful of maize crown daisy, then simmer a bit more. A pot of soup full of color and aroma appeared before him. Leon cried out in excitement, it's done, please enjoy. The broth carried a rich seafood flavor perfectly blended. He scooped a spoonful and brought it to his mouth, saying, let me try the broth first. Then Leon couldn't stop praising it. This broth is unbelievably good. The hot broth immediately drove away any greasiness. Suddenly he thought of a special dish. What about sujubai? Leon imagined the whole process, each part harmonizing like a symphony. The dough pieces thick in some places and thin in others, giving varied textures. Mushrooms and crown daisy mixed in each bite, creating an interesting contrast. The sweet, fragrant vegetables blended with the broth to create a new layer of flavor. Thinking that, Leon immediately exclaimed, these familiar flavors are dangerously delicious. Then he scooped another piece of meat and said, let's see, taste the crayfish meat. As soon as it entered his mouth, Leon felt his taste buds explode. His mind soared and he kept praising it. It's so sweet. The texture is firm and springy like blue crab. But the meat was sweet with the distinctive flavor of blue crab. Realizing this, Leon understood why the broth was so good. It was thanks to blue crab. Then he scooped the next bite, a piece of crayfish, a piece of sujubai, then slurped a mouthful of broth. Leon opened his mouth wide and then savored the earthly delicacy. He became a food critic. When he started to feel a bit full, he ate a piece of crown daisy to refresh his palate. This combination made him able to eat forever. Finally, the pot of broth was scraped clean. Leon leaned back and sighed contentedly, not forgetting to exclaim, it's truly delicious. I've been replenished with a large amount of energy from food. Afterward, he lay down under the shade of a tree to rest after a fruitful harvest session. Suddenly, Leon lifted himself up and told himself, don't sleep, get up, gather firewood before sunset. He looked around and remarked, I think I see a suitable tree nearby. Then Leon stood with arms crossed before a tree, evaluating it carefully. This tree is fine. The system identified it as a sparsely branched tree with soft, fragrant wood that is water-resistant. After a moment's consideration, Leon decided to buy tools. I'll try crafting some tools. If I can make anything of good quality, I'll sell it at the shilling shop. He held the tools in his hands, triumphant. I've saved shilling for today. Then Leon excitedly picked up the axe and said, a basic woodworking kit for beginners, tools prepared by a master carpenter for novices, doesn't include high-end tools but is sufficient. The system instructed him to chop the tree trunk along a V-shaped red-marked area. Hearing that, Leon swung his hand deftly. In a short while, he felled the tree trunk. Leon happily shouted, it's done. At the same time, the system notified him of collecting maize wood of various sizes. Leon wiped his sweat, eyes shining with joy. Even from a small tree, he got a lot of material. He hesitated and considered, if I saw off the remaining part and bring it back. But before Leon finished speaking, he suddenly noticed something and asked, huh? Leon vaguely focused his gaze and asked, what's that? Is there something over there? He stepped forward barefoot. Leon froze before the small house in disbelief. My God, there's a hut here in a place like this. He curiously peered through the window and observed. At a glance, it looked completely ordinary. Leon hesitated and wondered, could I use it? Inside, there's only a few pieces of furniture and a bed. Seeing his hesitation, the system immediately announced, thanks to the maze owner's authority, you are permitted to use the house. Leon perked up and cheered, wonderful, of course it's far better than sleeping outdoors for a whole month. Leon suddenly jolted and wondered, wait. He asked the system, can this hut be moved to my main camp? The system affirmed it can. Leon laughed in delight and shouted, excellent, then life in the maze for the next month will be much easier. The system asked, do you want to do it right now? Leon swiftly turned and ran outside. answering no, wait a moment. He quickly ran to his familiar spot, thinking to himself, if I have a proper house I need to craft a few more tools. I should clear space at the main camp first to place the hut. With his quickness, Leon climbed up very quickly. He rested his hands on his hips and pointed, okay, place it here. The system warned installation will take some time and be loud. Leon hesitated for a moment, but then he stroked his chin and wondered, how will it move? Since this is a maze, it will probably use magic to summon it. From above, a large silhouette suddenly appeared, startling Leon. He looked up, face confused and fearful. Don't tell me. No sooner had he finished than the house was dropped forcefully to the ground, causing everything around to shake violently. At the same time, the system announced, the hut installation is complete.